one of these.
Always, I tell you, it doesn't rhyme with colon. Don't call me Scollan.
All right, we'll do one of these. Live.
Oh, here, let me turn this off.
And then we'll do one of these. Danny Scollan.
Yep.
In the house.
Yes.
Yeah. These are some of my favorite shows, man, because I legitimately have no idea who you are.
Right. No, that's cool.
And it's my wife, I think, found you through the Webiverse.
Yes.
And you are, let's see if I did my homework somewhat decently. You are a dude from Chicago, moved here. I don't know if originally from Chicago.
I was originally, I grew up in Florida, was in Chicago for about 10 years.
That was on the thing, the breakdown.
Yeah. Yep.
Moved here, father.
Yes.
And we're going to get into it, but I guess life was throwing you some curveballs health-wise. You made it your point to figure out what it was. And I like the way you broke it down on your website because it said, instead of looking for internal, you looked for the external pieces. Right. But this fine gentleman is a resident of Flagler Beach, if I'm correct.
Yes.
And I'm extremely excited to have you on because what you're focusing on and seem to be an expert in is the acronym EMF. Right. Electrical magnetic fields.
Yes.
And I want to say thank you for coming and nice to meet you. And if we could, you want to take it from, I'm out of curiosity for myself because my motive is pure.
Yes.
I'm curious to know what was life throwing at you health-wise.
Yes.
That was this tipping point, man.
Well, I was experiencing a lot of health issues, none that at the time that I connected to anything.
Okay.
Like I said, I was looking all internal. I thought maybe there's something wrong, with me, my genome, whatever. I didn't know about environmental influences on biology. So, digestive issues, fatigue, brain fog, pains, difficulty sleeping, but I was, 29, 28 at the time. And I thought, well, maybe I'm just getting older, which is funny because I'm 43 and I feel a hell of a lot better than I did.
You're better now than then.
Absolutely. So to kind of go back and fill everybody in, I lived in a building that had a repeater, a cell phone repeater. And
what's that for those like me that don't know?
So it's like a signal booster. So since we lived in the city, I lived in high rises.
Gotcha.
And the way the signal works is basically with the higher the generation, 2G, 3G, 4G, now coming 5G, the frequency gets higher. So it doesn't pass through things as easily. So they need repeaters in the city to boost the cell phone service.
And you're living on top of one of these things.
I'm living under one.
Oof.
So on the roof, there was a cell phone repeater and there was a radio transmitter as well.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but signals fall.
Well, signals actually explode out like, in this spherical nature.
Okay.
And they go out in every direction.
But you're in this thing.
Yes.
Oh boy.
And not to mention it's Chicago. So it's, the population density lends to a higher saturation of electromagnetic fields. So I had a boss at the time who lived in the penthouse suite.
Okay.
And he couldn't sleep.
Wow.
Medication, legal and otherwise, alcohol, hypnotherapy, whatever. I don't know everything that he went through, but he couldn't make heads or tails of it and could not sleep. And he was on the top floor of that building right next to these things. And there were other things, other people in the building, health issues, mysterious, I don't know. I don't know exactly what was attributed to what, but there were some mysterious things. And one thing really personal to me is at the time, my wife at the time had multiple miscarriages in that building. Wow. And we knew other women in the building, one in particular, who also had multiple miscarriages. And, the OBGYNs and the medical professionals were all, basically, well, this is par for the course. This is the modern world. Right. We're experiencing more of this. People having kids at a later age, whatnot. They just, those lazy thoughts, they attributed, that to that. So, so there was lots of stuff going on. Never put two and two together.
What's the duration of this? Year, 2 years, 3 years?
2005 to almost 2010, but 2004 to 2010.
So 5 years.
5 years of living in this building. It took about 3 years. It took about 3 years for me to just start noticing slight digestive issues, skin issues. I mean, so many things you wouldn't attribute to this.
And this is 10 years ago.
That's right.
So it's even more foreign.
Right.
I don't even think the acronym existed yet. And if it did, I think it was military.
Right. And we were operating under probably 3G at the time, not even 4G. I want to say 4G probably came in the cities, maybe 2008, 2009.
Now you're seeking, from what your bio said too, man, you're kind of just, you're playing the American game. You're going to, you're just any physician, any help.
Right.
And you're getting a lot of I would assume, you didn't put this in the bio, I would assume you're getting, just take this a pill.
Right. And right. And my problems were, I had a back problem, I'll go to physical therapy.
Right.
Or chiropractor. I had digestive issue. Well, I'll go to the doctor and see if they can prescribe me an antibiotic or whatever for whatever ails my stomach.
Right.
So, I attacked it, pretty much the way probably 99% of the people would have.
So when's this eureka moment?
So there wasn't really one eureka moment, but it all happened in a very short time period. I was fortunate enough to get turned on to this neurosurgeon's work. His name is Kruse, Kruse. Okay. And he was writing a bit about EMFs at the time. And I had the good fortune to speak with him. I followed some of his works and his writings, and I thought, well, this is interesting, this EMF thing, and still didn't really put two and two together, but started doing some of his protocols or following some of his suggestions, and noticed some improvements or whatever. But eventually, I got the chance to talk to this guy, and he said. He asked me a litany of questions, one of which was, you ever lived near a cell tower? And I said, well, I lived under one.
I am one.
Right. Yeah. And he said, and that's where your health went to shit? Or I don't know if I can.
It's your show,
that's
baby.
Where your,
you can do it.
That's where your health, where the shit hit the fan. And I said, yeah. And he said, boom. And I'm like, really? So I started playing around with devices in the home, the router, cordless phones, started just unplugging them at first.
Interesting.
Yeah. And my wife at the time, we unplugged the router. She used to work at home and the router was right there in her office, and unplugged the router. 3 weeks, nothing really changed. We had a house guest. We plugged it back in because everybody wants Wi-Fi.
You need the Wi-Fi, bro.
Absolutely. And she noticed some mild headaches coming back, or she noticed headaches, and she's like, you know what? I haven't had those headaches in the past 3 weeks.
Wow.
And I just always thought that was normal. So when I started playing around with that was great. And then I got into other things that I started playing around with, and I realized a whole very interesting array of effects or health effects from this stuff.
Now, when you start to become educated and you're learning this, I feel like at these points, as we're becoming more of an educated, civilization and or species.
Yes.
There's that fork where it's like, do you freak out and do you wear the tinfoil, or do you keep it?
I did.
You did? Did you?
Well,
did you
not
go
literally wear the tinfoil, but yeah, sure.
The aliens are coming, so to speak.
Yeah.
Because I only ask that out of pure sincerity, because I know for instance. You boil it down to any major life crisis that we're met as from humans that I've been aware of. So I mean, just boiling it down to Y2K and the chaos, right? This what people do in the midst of what we're supposed, and then that's not even health wise. That was just like something digital. The monster, the matrix, is going to break or kill us, or we're dying. Now I ask that because I was turned on to this EMF by Dr. Limnouni.
Mm-hmm.
And he's actually, I'm sure you've probably had some banter with him. He's reading a book
Mm-hmm.
that talks about in the military, the radio waves when they were coming up with some of the original radio frequencies and being able to transmit, that the inventor of that, and I'm going to butcher it because I don't know who it was telling the military, like, hey, listen, if we're going to use this, we're dying at the same time that we're using this, but are we cool? We have to probably educate and let our peoples know that we need it for the sake of communication and war at that point.
Right.
But we're dying. And then they suppressed it. And of course, I don't want to get conspiracy, but this is in the literature. So you can do your own research, peoples, if you don't throw me to the coals. But it doesn't sound too out of our character to suppress that type of information. And then from there, now we're talking about the 3Gs, the 4Gs, now moving into 5G. Where are you at how do you implement how do you protect yourself at this point in this day and age? Because if you notice, seeing the wall right there, people can't see it, but I think it's called GreenWise or something.
Greenwave, Greenwave filter.
Is that a step in the right direction, or am I falling victim to the American, like the consumerism of this now? You know what I mean? Where like CBD oil was a couple years ago,
right? And
now everyone and their mothers have it.
Yes.
Am I falling victim to that, or does that actually provide a resource? And what I'm pointing over to, so people can't see, is a device that gets into the wall, into an outlet, and it's supposed to either, I don't know, suck the EMFs?
No, it's like a resistor.
Okay.
So it basically, when you have any, and I could butcher some of this stuff too, but when you have any amperage going through the line, usually you're supposed to, it's anywhere between 110 and 120 volts running through the line. But the electrical grid is not as sophisticated. The alternating current, that we operate under is not as sophisticated as people think. And so there are spikes and things and dips that come through the line.
Gotcha.
And that sort of attenuates any spikes that you're exposed to. With these, so you have a dedicated circuit coming from the breaker box.
Okay.
So each dedicated, you got a breaker, and that breaker controls a dedicated circuit throughout the house.
Interesting.
So wherever the breaker box is, you want those things as close to the breaker box as possible.
This guy. That little switch box?
Yeah, I see that. Okay, yeah.
So it would be better to probably have it plugged in there.
Well, you'd have to look at it and see where these dedicated circuits are going, but you'd want it on your bedroom circuit.
That I have.
So
I got one in almost every room.
So, but at the beginning of the bedroom circuit, if not in the bedroom necessarily, but like the first outlet on that circuit is where you'd want it, because it will still then travel up to where that green wave filter is, and right there it would take care of it. But you want to take care of it before it gets into the room. And
once again, this episode is going to be really, this is from a selfish perspective amazing, because this is what I'm trying to get better educated with EMFs, and obviously living a better lifestyle and using holistic natural remedies and even tactics. And this is a big thing, and that was once again by consequence of implementing Dr. Limnouni's Adam's practices, and he got turned on to this. I wonder, I'm sure you've had a conversation with him about this. He must be eating you alive. He loves this stuff.
I mean, I went in to measure his office and his home.
Nice.
And he had those great green wave filters before I came in. Those were actually something that I was aware of, but didn't know much about or recommend. But he's, we go on and off with these conversations, because going back to what you said about when you found out about this and you realize, when you realize that something is good for you,
right?
It's like, I don't know, most people, at least whatever, I'm not going to project. I put, the pedal to the metal. When I realize, something's good, let's do it. If taking a dunk in 55-degree water is good for you, then let's do 40-degree water. So, or I saw that you're a free diver. Me and my son are big free divers.
Nice, man.
And, figure, well, let's push the depths, So, but going back to that the whole idea of when you find something out about EMFs, like, what do you do?
Right.
Do you throw on the tinfoil hat and go absolutely nuts? And it's just like, I didn't literally do that, but I, dove deep.
Well, I mean, I give you, if I was your friend in that moment and you were wearing the tinfoil hat, I'd be a little bit more understanding, considering that you were probably a walking, cell phone tower. I mean, you were really right there.
Yeah. And I think it did cause some, electro hypersensitivity.
Oh, I'm sure.
In me.
Did you, in that moment when you were seeking any type of medical advice, and were you met with like, you're weird, dude? Because I'm thinking 5-10 years ago,
sure,
it's still foreign. There's going to be probably less people watching a show like today, because they're like, what is this alien business that you're talking about? So it's a very refined group of people that are, and once again, I'm not wearing the tinfoil hat, but I'm doing what I can do. And I'm trying, for instance, the little things, maybe not put the cell phone next to your head at night, like maybe, does it really matter if it's 20 feet, 15 feet? I don't know.
Sure.
But try to take some steps, because it's got to be laws of physics. They're emitting something. If Bluetooth can work, remember
it's not voodoo.
Right, it's not voodoo. Remember, like the first Bluetooth, I remember wouldn't work unless you were like touching almost. I remember I worked at Staples back in the day, and when Bluetooth came out, it was like things could communicate, and you think about it, it sounds so good, great, but it didn't work that well. Now you put those earbuds in. Dude, I was outside yesterday, through a glass door, through a door, all closed, still working.
Yes.
So how is it not going through us,
Right.
And what is that doing to our molecular structure? What's it doing to the whole jazz?
Yeah. I mean, we have, you have, a couple of Einstein theories at play. You have the theory of gravitational lensing and the photoelectric effect. Now, I'm not really, I find other theories, that counter his theories, actually quite fascinating, like that, where I'm not just all bought into these theories, but we're talking Einstein. And so, these waveforms of energy, this is how we've evolved. This is I'll give you, for instance, with the mitochondria, why at different latitudes do people have different skin color? Right?
It's a good question.
So the theory maybe is that, the theory is, so we came out of Africa, and the further north people migrated, the lighter their skin became. Well, how did that happen? Well, their mitochondria sense the environment through waveforms of energy that we call photonic energy from the sun. And so those photon packets, and there's even theories that counter the photon theory, but the photon theory is the photon is widely accepted, in physics, and these sort of points of energy. They say it's massless energy. I don't know if I agree with that. It's actually sending signals to the mitochondria. The mitochondria are like basically your sixth sense. And so people at different latitudes, their mitochondria function differently. And so you adapt over time, because your body's picking up on that different environmental signal, and your skin becomes lighter and lighter, and therefore it's able to assimilate a lower UV yield. Like if you are in New York, the sun is not as strong, so you need to be as light as possible to assimilate UVB and turn it into vitamin D through sulfated cholesterol or whatever. So
this is very interesting, because on a tangent, if you're cool with this, because you brought up something that has been it crossed my desk, so to speak.
Yeah.
And it was on a Joe Rogan episode where he had a world-renowned yet frowned upon archaeologist. And he talks about Obelga Tepe and and he's saying now that there's a research being conducted and almost proven, but being suppressed in the major culture of our educational system, that we believe it's fact, but once again, it's not streamlined, that there's been some populations of civilizations that predate everything we've ever known.
Right. There are many scientific theories that might be considered fringe, but these are actual scientists with consensus among other scientists of so many different theories. I learn about them all the time.
It's very fascinating. I always find it, I try not to get too absorbed in once again, the theories that can just cripple you. Cause I think
Yes.
everyone has
Yes.
those moments in life. Who
Yes.
doesn't, whether it's political, whether it's scientific, it's very consuming. So I try to keep somewhat of a stay in my lane,
Right.
6 inches in front of the face. Let's not get too cuckoo here.
Yeah.
But it is a little weird that I think, Willie, what happens, and I'm too young and not smart enough to understand it still, but with the educational system here in the United States of America,
Yeah.
it doesn't, until it is taught, implemented, and accepted throughout whatever this beast is, it's not fact.
Right.
That's what I'm being led to believe when I'm, for instance, this particular archaeologist, and it seems that, correct me if I'm wrong, but even catering to this EMF, if you Google EMF, which I did today for the first time ever, the first thing that comes up is Google's gotten good at just giving you like a little blurb of like what Wikipedia would do. So it's like a preface of what it literally says. EMFs are completely fine. There's no issue. Settle down.
Right.
And it goes into depth and it addresses, I would imagine, like the three most, it says like cell phone towers are fine, your microwaves, your cell phones, your all this. And it's like, wait a minute. I'd rather you stay neutral.
Right.
Or say, we don't know. Like black matter, don't know. Like that there's actually, I feel, integrity and noble nature to that when someone just claims, I don't know, it's okay.
Yes.
We don't know what's in the ocean. We don't know about, instead of going, it's okay.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the internet is a battleground, and there are moneyed interests that have a lot at stake if certain information were to be even entertained. Yeah. So no, it's definitely a reality that there's a guy, Dr. Andrew Marino. He wrote a couple books, Going Somewhere, but it was about electromagnetic frequencies. And he studied under a guy. These guys have been studying this since the 50s and 60s. And I saw an interview that he did with, I can't remember who did it, but some EMF outfit. And he basically said, and he was a researcher, a scientist, NIH funded, just about as mainstream as you can get as far as how he went through the channels to get funding and whatever. And he's like, there really is no real science going on. It's all, money backed or industry backed, industry funded studies. They're all, trying to drive towards a certain outcome or answer. So he says there really is no real science. And I mean, and he's been doing this for like 30, 40 years. But I was going to say, going back to the whole idea of not freaking out. I mean, really, when it boils down to it, it's all stress response, right? And so in between that, not to say that it still can't have an effect, but in between that waveform of energy hitting the atomic lattice of your cell or your cell membrane, there's a perceived idea, or there's this response coming from the amygdala in the brain. And it's basically, you could freak out, over this coffee.
True.
When was this coffee really harmful? I mean, I've read so many bad articles about caffeine and whatnot. But you can freak out, so it can definitely worsen the stress response. You can definitely make things worse by worrying about it. And then the whole idea is that with the higher the population density, right, the higher the saturation of electromagnetic fields. So what's the natural thing to do if you have EHS is to isolate yourself. I'm going to go live on a boat somewhere for a year. Right. Well, that's not going to work out for you. I mean, that sounds like a great adventure, but isolating yourself from people, that's,
psychologically not sound.
Well, we're social creatures. We depend on nature and the dopamine and the neurotransmitter boosts that we get from it just as much as we depend on people. You can't, So
even the most severe introvert needs a little 5 love languages, so to speak.
And now we've all become introverts, and we've settled for the one-dimensional contact over the 3-dimensional real contact. So
it's very interesting. And when you're talking, there's so many things crossing my brain of things that I've read. It's once again, I want to reiterate, man, I thank you so much for coming, because this is one of those episodes that I could go like 10 days. I love these types of talks and just in my own personal life. And
I don't think you want me to talk for 10 days.
Hold on, folks. So it goes without saying, right? With what is that beautiful saying? With much knowledge comes great,
responsibility,
right? But also somewhat depression, I would imagine, because with this, what they did to the actual Tesla and all of these pioneers and all of these individuals that broke ground and whether invented something, discovered something. There's this battle, I feel, from what I've read in most of the literature and these biographies about these people, is that they have this moment, bam, I've invented being able to send electricity through the air.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, through that trial and error, whatever things were dying around them, or whatever harm came to them, they once the apples of the world, the consumerism of the world gets note of it, they disregard the last 4 or 5 chapters of his dissertation. Right. We're like, well, if you do implement this, your legs fall off. Right. Like, well, we don't go there. And we don't know really what are the ramifications still. We're still such a little creature species anyways. Sure. We're so on this thing called life, where you hear dinosaurs, you hear billions of light years. We're nothing. We don't even know. We still don't even know what we don't even know what the black and white TVs were doing to us, let alone what 5G is going to do. Right. So when people do go super cuckoo and they're like, this is, don't rape and pillage until you really have some factual data. But I do believe that there's a lot of validity, and there's things to be said with those that are trying to find a way to implement isn't it interesting, as a species, we want to prolong our life, right? Right. Safe to say. It's interesting if you ask somebody like, do you want to die? I don't think that's unless you're just some sick, deprived, morbid individual, and you're like, yeah, I want to die. Fine. But in general, humans, we're here to live. Right. But we don't know anything. We don't even, did you hear recently, they're starting to say now, scientifically, they're starting to say that consciousness, if we're whatever that is actually, they may say it's not even originating in the brain now. Right. Yeah. You heard that? Yes. So it's so fascinating, and that doesn't make me angry or happy. It just makes me inquisitive to think, like, here we think like it's all here, it's here. It's I feel like it's a beautiful thing to just cherish from head to toe. Right. And like you were saying earlier too, so Elon is preaching like hardcore about the governments and the United Nations need to get together and start to put in rules and regulations for AI. And ironically, 6 months to 12 months after him preaching that on Rogan, he's the pioneer for neurotech, or Neuralink. Right. That will be the first ever artificial intelligence. Now, we've had this in the past, but it was for one systematic process. They would implement it into the brain, and then you could control your wheelchair, a computer. Through your thoughts. Now, the microfibers are going from like a 3,000 stems to where it's like 30,000. Wow. And the data processing, et cetera, et cetera. But my point is, he's like warning, but he's also building it at the same time. Right. Just like an original Tesla, like an original inventor, where it's like, I need to do this because I don't sleep and you don't want to be me. It's interesting, though. It's interesting that you talk about these guys, because I mean, I know a lot of people, laud their, the efforts and the brains or the minds of these people. But you go back, why do you, I don't know, I find it interesting that the man can't sleep. I find it interesting that he has so many issues. A lot of people, well, he just works a lot. It's just like, well, okay. Maybe it could be some of the stuff he's surrounded himself with. It's not
a well-known fact or well-known thing, but Tesla at the end of his life was batshit crazy.
Mm-hmm.
All of that supposed, free electrical energy, or that wireless, voltage
Mm-hmm.
that you were able to power, things without a wire, probably drove him crazy.
Mm-hmm.
You can do that in another place, stand under a high voltage power line, and you can get wireless power from that just because the voltage is so strong.
Is that a fact?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I don't know. I mean, these things definitely should be explored. I don't know.
I like your angle on that.
It's tough to get into the philosophy of this
Right.
stuff. And it's just like, well, do you stop it? And it's just like, well, you're not going to. You're not going to. And maybe that's just human nature. I don't know.
I think it's interesting what you said, because you may have hinted on, and correct me if I'm wrong, but with most of these inventors, and especially as inventors and pioneers of anything, whether once again they're developing something or discovering something,
yeah,
they're surrounded by technology,
right?
And a byproduct of technology is frequency and connected to the internet, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes.
So it's interesting that near the end of Tesla's, and by the way, if you're listening to this, it's not Elon Musk's Tesla, which I thought was ingenious that he did do that.
Right.
That's sick, man. But it's interesting, at the end of the day, Elon is driven by probably his own demons of creating and developing, but I'm sure he doesn't mind the billions of dollars he has either. So let's always remember that. I feel like there's always, from my opinion, there's multiple, it's a multi-dimensional situation, but it boils down to inventors that get nothing.
Yeah.
And they really are just
right.
They're sitting in their own shit, basically. Beethovens of the world.
Right.
That he really wasn't doing it to have Billboard's top 100.
Right.
And then you have the ones that go, wait a minute, not only do I have this genius, but I'm going to Steve Jobs it.
Right.
And then they monetize it. So, do I like one or the other? I don't know. I mean, I'm an earthier, more kind of organic guy, so I'm going to go with the Beethoven.
Right. Right.
Just because I think it was more genuine and his motive was pure.
Right.
But do I hate on the SpaceX and going to the Mars? And
I think though, when you get at that level and there's that much financial interest involved, that there are going to be other players. There are going to be other power brokers in, like, namely with him, with sending these satellites up into space. Telecom is going to get a hold of him and push his hand one way or another, or push his hand towards certain things or not.
Can you invent this now?
Right. So I don't know. I definitely don't hate on these people, and I'm not like anti-technology.
Right.
So,
well, that was another question I was I had for you was, here we are, it's 2020, what a cool date, right? Or year.
Right.
And I feel like we're nowhere. When we were growing up, 2020, we were supposed to be robots and flying cars.
Yeah.
But I feel like we still made leaps and bounds more even medically with appendages and robotics. But where are you right now? Have you found a good balance? I mean, I know right now you're actually offering it as a service where you come into people's households, commercial environments, and help them with discovering these fields could be affecting you negatively by the following way, and then give them some type of rectifying that by means of whether a tool, whether moving things, and just education more than anything. Have you found a healthy balance, or are you, for instance, you have a phone, so you're still dealing with it,
right? But
have you found?
I mean, I don't know a healthy balance. Like, I just try to navigate this modern world as best I can, considering my knowledge.
Okay.
So, but definitely always keeping it in mind not to stress. And I really don't. It's kind of it's effortless now. I don't stress about it, because I know that does no good.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, like, take the phone, for instance. A lot of people don't know it's a 4G phone, right? Phones operate on 4G, but you can switch it to 3G mode. 3G mode uses a different technology than 4G. They use what some in the industry they call MIMO, or multiple in, multiple out, 4G. And so it's constantly communicating. So if I had I do have my radio frequency meter, but if I had if I put my radio frequency meter up to the phone, it would show, constant spiking and constant signals being sent out from this phone in 4G mode. Now, data transfer and upload is going to be faster, but 99% of the time, unless I'm in a rural area, 3G is suffice. I'll switch it to 4G if I'm uploading something or downloading something. But yeah, you can switch your phone to 3G mode. You can put it on airplane mode. At night, I can switch the color of the phone,
the red,
shortcut, right? Yep. So I use it, but I use it wisely. I don't let it use me.
Ooh, I like it.
I don't let it control me. Now, but what's interesting is human nature. Like, I just got this phone. I was operating on a Sidekick until maybe February or March this year.
You're talking about the slider phone?
The kids loved it because it was like, it looked like a transformer.
Yeah.
Like, man, that phone they were the only ones that thought the phone was cool. But so this is new to me. And I mean, I was all over the phone when I first got it for a couple months. Mm-hmm. And my niece said to me, she's like, Uncle Danny, what are you doing? And I'm like, wow,
you just get consumed.
She's, telling me that I'm on the phone too much. So yeah, you got to be careful. Like, basically it's like you get dopamine fixes from this phone, right? Mm-hmm. You get all of these, neurohormonal boosts, for lack of a better term. I'm no brain surgeon, scientist, or whatever. So, but you get all of these like mood boosts from the phone, but they're not regenerative. So it's like a gambling thing. It's like any other addictive thing that doesn't have a healthy return on it. You're just more, and the addiction becomes stronger and stronger and stronger. So the idea is to feed yourself with things that, evolutionarily speaking, brought us to the dance, nature, people. Mm-hmm. If you do that, then the addiction problem, drug addiction, cell phone addiction, whatever, becomes less of an issue. That's definitely the way to, you have to fight it with more nature. Like, you and Adam going out swimming, surfing, whatever, you have to strike that. You have to find that. That's a good, that's striking a good balance in the modern world, is just not forgetting how we got here. Right. But you can look at everything though. Like, you should question everything. Mm-hmm. The intelligent mind, or your curious mind, should question everything that the modern world brought to us. Not to say that everything is bad, or that the negatives outweigh the benefits, or the cons outweigh the pros, but you should question. Right. I don't know. At least I do.
Dude, I totally agree with you. Yeah. And it's funny because what you're saying is not necessarily find the negativity, or you're being a pessimist, or the half glass full. It's all right. So even today I woke up and I had a couple people I always check in on, and how are you? And I was getting informed about some particular folk that haven't been sleeping well at night. And a lot of this everything's back. We just try to boil things down so fast. We're just because we got work at 9. So we don't have time to, and it's my back, my neck, my this, which I've been there. Mm-hmm. But until I had met a dude like Adam, that two things that you hinted on that resonate with me is, one, I was the kind of guy that life wasn't nature. Life was like, I had a meeting at 10. So I have to get better before 10. I also have soccer tonight. So am I going to be able to play, Doc? Right. And it was, hey, wait a minute. First of all, you've been not walking for 6 years. Let's just say, use an arbitrary number, or you haven't walked at all. So when I first had met Adam, I my nature was recreation, like just to swim, just soccer and run. So I'm like, I'm good. Right. It wasn't actually therapeutic, where just move. The biomechanics of just you're like going to hunt. Right. Not run. Yes. And I'm meeting a dude like Adam, and it was the point of, when's the last time you take a 45-minute to an hour walk? And it's like, I don't need a walk, bro. I did a 3-hour stint of soccer yesterday. It's like, no. That's like in the, it's like the cheetah only actually runs for 30 seconds.
Right.
Yeah, he hits speeds of 65 miles an hour, but he's only there for 30 seconds.
Right.
The rest of his life is walking, hunting, gathering.
Yes.
And I'm like, I don't walk, man, bro. I'm like, I'm 35 now. When I met him, I'm almost like 29, late 20s. I'm like, walk? What am I here? And dude, slowly but surely, walking, being out there, and starting to just remove yourself. And it's funny because what's happening in parallel is you are removing yourself from. Now, I strongly suggest when you are doing your walk or being outside, even if you're just standing there for an hour, just if you can't move, just be out there and be away from the phone. Don't be one of these walkers. Definitely. I'm a big fan of taking people on a walk. That's like my favorite thing, because I'm a communicator and rather codependent when it comes to the love stations. So I like to walk with people and no disturbances, preferably the beach, because now the phone doesn't work anyways most of the time. But it's funny that you fast forward, and I've now known Adam, might be kissing almost close to 10, more than 5, less than 10 maybe. My life has completely changed when I started walking, being outside, and like you said, that nature. It's really, really powerful. And I try telling people that now. And most of the guys I play soccer with are still the younger breed. They're me, 10 years ago, and they're like, walk. What you mean? They do like a quick stretch. We've all been there. But once again, it's not even just the walking. It's just being out there.
Yes.
And then you realize, like, life isn't your body's really not yours. So if you're not going to take care of it, and you have back pain, quote unquote, and you took something last night to subsidize the pain, you're going to wake up and you've just band-aided it. And it's taken X amount of time to get there. And then I'll close on this and throw the ball back at you, because this is what I found fascinating. I figured out being outside was amazing, not only for my health, like my psychological, but my physical. But what I didn't realize was, in the midst of pain and or disaster or dismay to any capacity, I was such a worrier and such a, what do they call, like when you freak out, you Google it, WebMD, you're like, I have elbow disease. I'm dead. I remember a guy like Adam would also say, man, it starts in a state of mind. And I threw my shoulder out the other day. I was playing soccer, went down, and I noticed the last handful of injuries I've had over the last few years, I've not bitched about it. Seek advice if need be by a physician that's going to give you good advice and a structure to rectify it, which thank God Adam did. But you don't bitch about it to your immediate peers and your circle, because I've noticed, 1, you become that guy. 2, I do believe sincerely that negativity to any capacity eats your bones.
Absolutely.
I'm a big fan of there's a lot in the Bible, man, that I do believe in. That it specifically says negativity and harping on things, whether it's yelling at somebody or focusing on it, it literally is deteriorating your body.
Yes.
I believe in that.
I also 100% believe in
and
that.
I just threw my shoulder out last week, and I was so pissed off because I just started to get it back better. And I'm more of just like a couple push-up guy a day. And I want my soccer and swimming. And of course it's like, boom. And instead of bitching and complaining and going to see Adam and being in the room like, dude, come on, like, I got to get better. I got a game tonight. I've just learned to say, hey, I got a little thing. And when he's not animated, I know now, just chill. And dude, no joke. I'm not trying to sound all like super like spiritual, but dude, this got better. I want to say 3 times faster. I've shaved off probably 3 weeks of what normally would be where I'm back. I feel like just by doing chill. And doing, just not sitting in a room. I'm not saying it like was touched by this. But just keeping your mind right and knowing it's going to get better. And obviously weaning off of it too, being smart. And bro, I'm like, wow, it's really working. So what you had said earlier, that's where it hinted on, it triggered where it's saying, when you're talking about not wearing the tinfoil hat and like not freaking out, and you still use your phone, but you don't. So I was wondering, pertaining to that, what would probably be a handful of things that you're doing that the general public, for instance, I love that you have, is that Flux that you have on your phone?
It's well, no, actually this is just a built-in setting.
Oh, it's built
iPhone.
in? It's got,
yeah.
So for those that don't know, when he clicked his phone a couple times, it went to this like very,
can they see it or?
I don't know. Maybe
Or
not.
is it,
There you go. Hey. So it's like, I just learned this too recently. When you see movies and or documentaries of military and or like Marine type of,
Mhm.
all of their gear
Mhm.
is emitting that red.
Mhm.
And that's one, because it's hard to identify. It's
Mhm.
just not throwing off any blue light to the enemy and they can't see, but it's also
Right.
better on your eyes.
Right.
Now, once again, another Adam trick. He had taught me the flux. So that is, there are tools out there. This blue light thing, we still don't know what it's doing to us.
Right.
So what's,
Well, they do basically look, you mentioned the military. Jet fighters would have blue and green lights nighttime missions, would have blue and green lights shining in their eyes to keep them awake. So
interesting?
technology, that white part of the screen is going to basically suppress melatonin release. It's from the pineal gland and from other places in the body, but it suppresses that release of melatonin, and melatonin starts a whole cascade of hormones that eventually leads up to growth hormone repair and something called autophagy and mitophagy in the middle of the night. And so it's the most efficient way to repair the body. What do most people do? They stay up till midnight watching TV. They turn over, they go to bed at 12:01, or they're on their phones, their computers, and so they're not having any melatonin release, in sleep. And so people are like, well, I still fall asleep. And it's like, I argue that you are crashing and burning, not falling asleep. And I got a few stories about that too, but so you don't achieve that growth hormone state of repair and that protein repair state that they call autophagy and mitophagy at the right times at night. And after a while, you invite other cellular programs like cell death, apoptosis. And then when those things stop working, the C word. There you go.
Ugh. This is powerful stuff, man.
So, but definitely, well, you gave me so much. I don't know where to begin, but
we don't owe anybody. I'm getting more coffee. You good on coffee?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah.
Don't feel like we even have to address everything.
Yeah. Yeah, true.
We're gonna have to do. Maybe I'll do a couple episodes. But you know what I love that you just said was I'm guilty of it.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a lot. I used to have a rule where there was no TV in bed. I still have that.
Yeah.
No TV in bed.
Yep.
I didn't even have a TV in the bedroom. And that was like foreign in American society. Like, what?
Yeah.
People come over like, where's the TV in the bedroom?
Right.
But I'm so hypocritical because I used to have a rule, no, like Facebook in bed, no this, but it's slowly but surely the phone has bled. Right. It's our alarm. Yeah. It's our gotta check if my mom needs me. Yes. Duh.
Right.
And there is a very the biochemistry, man, it really is releasing that. It's really cool to see some people liking your jazz.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
One of the biggest things they could, a few easy things you mentioned, like what can people do? What do you do? One of the, you don't necessarily have to go crazy. You can, if you want, and I can guarantee you the benefits will be cumulative. If you got a router in the house, everybody does, unplug it at night.
Just like that.
Just unplug it from the wall. Plug it back in. It'll take a few minutes to boot back up, but unplug it from the wall. You have a cordless phone, get rid of them. Just use your cell phone.
Are those they're really bad?
The cordless phone is always emitting a 2.4 gigahertz signal from the base, trying to find the phone, even when the phone is on the base. And so it's always emitting. It's like a little router. It's like another router. So this, on 3G, this doesn't emit much of anything unless you're actively using the phone. But on 4G, it does, but the power density of this is less than, and the amount of radio frequency that it puts out is less than what you would get from a cordless telephone.
Are you kidding me?
So get rid of the cordless telephone. Just get rid of it. As a matter of fact, what I would say is if you make a lot of phone calls, get a hardwired connection. I mean, that's what they do in the office. That's what they do in the Pentagon. That's what the government does. Just get a hardwired phone with a good speaker function. If you have to spend hours on the phone, in front of the computer or whatever, just, make your phone calls on speaker from a hardwired connection. The other thing I'd say, one of the most important things to pay attention to is your lighting environment in the house. So I don't know, we have LED, compact fluorescent, halogen light technology. Halogen is not so bad, but the best is going back to the old incandescent bulbs, the ones that burn and glow the filament. Our retinal pathways are more biologically adapted to see a glow like that from fire than the flicker of the LED light. And that flicker happens only if it's connected to the power grid. So it's because this 60 hertz signal, the 60 cycle per second signal from the AC, from the alternating current power grid, that makes these, lighting technologies flicker. So if you had an LED flashlight, it doesn't flicker, but go back to the old incandescent bulbs and, at night, download Iris on your phone, download Iris on your computer, IRIS. I like it better than Flux.
Really?
I've tested it with a spectrometer, and the flicker rate on Iris is much like the flicker rate on Flux is pretty high. And so again, we were never meant to perceive energy like pulsating like that. So, so you can download Iris on your phone, your laptop, your computers, whatever. Like iPads, iPhones have it built into the setting. I'm not sure about
IRIS.
IRIS, and just Google Iris, maybe blue light blocking.
Dude, you're blowing my mind. I'm a Flux guy. I'm gonna have to change. Is it a paid one? Because I think Flux was free.
Yeah, it's $10 per device. Iris used to be free. They do it. They have like a free trial, and it's a couple good interviews with the inventor.
Interesting.
Of Iris, really cool guy. I have a friend that interviewed him as well. But his technology is superior to his for protecting your sleep.
Well, if you're paying, if Flux is free and that one's paid for, I guess that speaks for itself.
Yeah, maybe Iris at one time was free.
Right.
So I'm not really sure why.
And for those that are listening, if we're freaking you out, it's once again, it's changing. I'm not smart enough, nor do I understand it. That's Danny's department, but it both basically is a filter that goes onto your computer, a digital filter. You don't have to actually.
Right. You don't put anything on the computer.
And it keeps it just helps with this receiving into the eyes, and it's not supposed to be, especially at night.
Right. You can turn this, then you adjust your own settings. You can put it to a red sleep setting.
Right. I'm just checking Camille's out of town. She's my publicist. So I was checking to see. There it is. IRIS. She's correcting us.
Cool.
She's usually in the back room. She's out of town. And I always get afraid if she's like, your mic's not on or something, so we're good.
Go out of state, or where is she?
She's visiting a friend of hers. And of course, I think South Carolina, North Carolina. Okay. I'm one of those husbands that I'm just like, as long as you're safe, I'm okay.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
But she was really excited about it. She arranged all this.
Yes.
Which was an honor. Because
Yeah.
like I said, I knew you were local because I had told Adam, he was over here watching soccer game. I'm like, I have an EMF expert coming on. And he's like, I know. Oh my God. I love this. You've got, once again, these are simple things.
Yes.
If someone were saying,
Simple, cheap.
Danny, what do I do?
Yeah.
Unplug the router at night.
Yes.
Kind of if you can, switch your phone to 3G when and if you can.
Yeah.
Keep
the phone at a distance from you first and foremost. Keep it in another room if you need it on for the calls.
Are you out the room? The cell phone's out of the room at night, Danny?
I've put it on airplane mode or turn it off.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dude, you got to be like 0.01% of the general public.
Right, for sure.
That is not 100.
Definitely kooky in my own
wow.
mind. Yeah.
And now with these little changes, I know it goes without probably asking, but
yeah,
you've noticed. I see a lot of people. I belong to a lot of natural, holistic groups online, and for every time I see someone say, "I'm dealing with really bad migraines," I was that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Now I don't preach online.
Mm-hmm.
If they ask me personally, I would say this is what worked for me.
Right.
But I think whatever company owns Excedrin, I definitely bought them. the upholstery for one of their yachts.
Yeah.
You know, like I was investing in that business.
Yeah. It's interesting. You said, when did you start getting migraines?
Dude, I was well, here's what I figured out about myself.
Mm.
I was a Coca-Cola guy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, working a 9-to-5 computer cubicle job. And at my worst, here I am, right? I'm healthy. I run, I play soccer. I'm healthy. Of course, duh. And then fill out the form. Am I taking anything? No, I'm not taking anything except my Tic Tacs.
Right.
So I'm drinking Coca-Cola like we used to work at an establishment that was like a mini Google, and it was an interneting company. So it was like a Willy Wonka.
Right.
We walked in the kitchen and it was all you could eat and drink, and they kept us happy that way because we were
those places.
It's I was a young 20 nut and I'm in there. I'm like, oh my, like everything you can imagine, particularly sodas,
candy, soda fountain,
anything. So I'm on my umpteenth soda by noon. And then of course you have soda with so I think what was happening was I was having caffeine deficiency.
Yeah.
So to fast forward, it was, and then of course I went diet soda. I was like, oh, I got this.
Right.
I'll just go. I thought we think it's a sugar thing.
Right.
So let's just drink some fake sugar. And I went diet soda, but I was a coffee morning drinker, soda all day. And then those laps of, I think by the time I went to sleep till when I went to at night,
right,
8, 10, 12 hours of no soda, no caffeine intake, I'd wake up, man, and I felt like, maybe it's my eyes,
right?
Maybe it's my pillow, maybe it's my mom,
right?
You're not,
yeah.
Maybe it's what are we ingesting,
right?
And I'm not saying it's that easy for everybody. So by all means, all my lovers out there, don't freak out. Like I got migraines because of this was just me. But dude, it took me, and what I would do was Excedrin first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
Even if I didn't even have it, I knew I was going to get one by like noon anyways.
Wow.
Excedrin, and it says on the bottle, you're going to die if you take more than 2. And if you drink alcohol, but that didn't matter.
Yeah.
Come nighttime, another 2. So I was on about 4 Excedrins a day, 1,000 Cokes a day on top of my coffee. And that's what I think was my issue, was a caffeine. Is that, I could be wrong, but is there substance behind that? Would you?
Yeah, I mean, it
caffeine
definitely could
deprivation?
Be. Sure. I mean, there's a rebound effect from any sort of drug or chemical you have, and that caffeine goes out of the caffeine. What does it do? Constricts the blood vessels. So maybe when that wears off, you have the rebound effect, just like, and then the blood vessels then, they dilate maybe more than normal because you've lost that medicinal effect or that chemical effect of the caffeine. Happens like when people take fever suppressors. That's, you get a lot of kids that have febrile seizures. Yeah. But you find out that most of them, they tried to suppress the fever. And then when that medicine wore off in the middle of the night, they got the rebound effect and it exploded. So yeah, caffeine in and of itself is not a bad thing. Caffeine moves energy in the body, actually, but if you're devoid of energy, then caffeine will dehydrate you. Or if you're in a bad environment, that's what EMFs do. On a cellular level, it dehydrates the cell membrane.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So if you're already messed up, which is 99% of the general public, I would imagine anyways,
right.
And now you're being exposed to high frequencies. Let's say you got 4 cordless phones. It's so fascinating that cordless phones, something that I grew up, that was like an 80s.
Right,
I mean,
sure.
Late 70s, early 80s, the cordless phone, baby. That was a
Uniden,
big deal, baby.
Yeah.
I remember that every cordless phone had it in the very big, bold alpha font, 2.4 GHz.
Yeah.
Like
it used to be 900 megahertz. It's changed. The industry standard has changed. But
right. So those things we're growing up with, etc. But you're saying, so if you're already, you're not getting a swim in, you're not doing a walk, you're working in a cube, you're in the fluorescent lighting,
then there's probably going to be a tipping point or threshold, and some people will be able to tolerate it better than others.
Do you think, total curiosity,
do
you think that the stupid C word
Mhm.
Do you think that there is a higher percentage of it being developed in humans because of EMFs and the electrical magnetic field in general, or do you think, because we obviously know it's a fact that what we're ingesting too, these dyes,
Yes. Yeah.
these liquid potions that are being given to us,
Right.
as they're euphoric, yet it's like red dyes, etc. What do you think if there was this magical bar graph?
Mhm.
Do you think there's more cancer causing cell altering issues with light,
Mhm.
or do you think it's more ingested?
I was just reading papers on the way here that talk about radio frequency and its cause of its mutagenic effects on cells, meaning it's cancer,
Right.
causing effect. Yeah, I think it's highly underrated.
Right.
I think that I know that there is a causal link between the two. The papers, the literature is out there. It's just being the waters are being muddied by industry-funded science. So every research or paper or piece of literature that finds that there is a positive correlation, there's going to be 10 papers that are going to be put out that either find a negative correlation or no causative effect, if that's the right way to say it. I know what you mean. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think that it all plays an effect, this modern soup. But what I believe about cancer is that, and a lot of this stuff is stuff that I've read, stuff talking to this brain surgeon guy who, throughout I followed him, became friends with him, and actually hung out with him a bit, and was able to pick his brain, and and he's a brain surgeon. He's not a physicist, not a scientist. He's definitely into physics, so he doesn't know everything, but he has some interesting theories, and one of which, not his theory, but is basically something that makes a lot of sense to me, that cancer is a disease of a lack of energy. And so it could be either a lack of energy like globally throughout the body, or it can be a lack of energy in certain parts of the body, right? So where do we get energy from? Where do most people think we get all of our energy from? Probably
I would say eat and sun.
Okay, well, see, most people would say food.
Okay.
And wouldn't even go to the sun. Electron gradient from the ground, from nature.
Interesting, yeah.
Photonic energy maybe from the sun. Crashing waves also have this negative ion, this ionic energy, or this negative electron energy. We're like zero-sum game. We're not only exchanging, but building energy between us, even by being in proximity to another human. Heart math, they talk about magnetic field.
Interesting.
From the heart and the brain, just because the density of mitochondria in these two organs. It's about energy deficit in the body, diseases. But what scientists are finding is that, so have you ever heard, do you know what ATP is?
No.
Adenosine triphosphate. It's the currency of the mitochondria. It's like the power plant of the mitochondria. And a lot of people maybe that do a low carb diet might know that on low carb you're going to get 36 ATP for every mole or some sort of subunit of carbohydrates you eat, and then maybe 5 times as much ATP eating a ketogenic diet, let's say,
right,
off of fat, or fasting, your body metabolizing its own energy stores. But what they're finding is that food plays like maybe not even a secondary, but a tertiary role in energy production in the body, which sounds counter, because it's just like, wait a second, I know that if I didn't eat in that, most people will say that if I didn't eat in that day, that there's no way I wouldn't be able to function, stay awake. I have to eat.
Right.
It's because you're lacking the other energy inputs. You are not getting enough from the ground, from the sun, from people. And I definitely do find that when say I'm at the beach or I'm with people and I'm getting fed literally in other ways, that my appetite, is definitely decreased. And it's like, well, maybe this makes sense that we are actually, and it's the most efficient way. It doesn't have to go through a digestive process. You're absorbing energy, photons from the sun, electrons from the ground, other electrons from people, and other chemical things that are spurned on from interaction with other people. So if cancer is a deficit, and the electromagnetic fields, they take energy away. And if you think that's pseudoscience, the people listening, if they think it's pseudoscience, no, it literally, and the only reason I'm going to say this is just, to tell you that there's science behind it. It knocks the outer shell orbiting electron off of the atomic lattice and literally creates free radicals and takes energy away from the body. One thing I noticed when I lived in that building with a repeater on top, I also was a realtor at the time, among other things, but real estate was my main thing. And oftentimes I'd go at home to work, and man, in the middle of the day, like, I just look at that couch, it'd be calling me at 2:00. It's like, what am I doing? Taking 2-hour naps in the middle of the day. I just
We're
went
busy.
with it. Right. And so it's simple. Nature brought us to the dance. Modern life, a lot of people, and I would agree with them, is probably killing you at a faster rate than, is aging you. It's robbing energy from you. So, that there's who's the guy that did the documentary Fat, Sick, and Tired, or
Yes,
Michael Moore?
If it wasn't Michael Moore, it was definitely one of those guys that were pioneering that era of the controversial, pretty much. But yes, I know you're talking. I saw it.
Yep. I didn't know it back then, but they talked about this guy from Germany who was diagnosed with cancer. His work was going to give him 6 months of paid leave to get better, to recoup. He spent 6 months on some island or on a beach. Came back, no cancer.
Wow.
Energy. So you have to make time to, the best thing is to get outside barefoot on the ground in the morning, first thing in the morning. Let that, with the sunrise, ideally, a lot of people say, well, I can't do it. It's just like, well, then there are trade-offs. Point blank, there are trade-offs. So get outside in the morning sun barefoot. If you're close to the beach, go to the beach. Close to a lake, go to the lake. Ground, set that timing mechanism in your brain right, so all the hormones are firing throughout. You've got hormonal problems, get your light right, go out barefoot grounding, and there's all these subtle energies that send signals to your body, just like the light sends a signal to release a hormone called melatonin that helps you go to sleep. Happens all throughout the day. And so that initial time of the day, that crescendo of light that happens pre-sunrise, very important to have your eyes bathing in that. Sending all sorts of signals to the brain, all sorts of frequencies of light wrapped up in that.
Is that pretty religious for you? You're sunrise guy?
Absolutely.
I can't do. Of course, I know a handful of you, and I love you kind of guys. I think not if there's a common denominator amongst you guys, and not only are you usually really at peace,
right,
but you guys are doing the morning,
the
morning sunrise. Where my substitute for that is if I'm not in the ocean any particular day, my day's off, and I don't even realize it till later at night when I'm like mad. I'm not a yeller or even share it with most people, but I'm just like, I had a poop day.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I didn't get in the ocean. But that's my, as long as I'm out there. But there's a lot. It's funny. So this has become rather common knowledge to, I would imagine, a guy like you and myself that are always trying to self-educate and learn. And so they did that test where they took 2 plants, yelled at one every day, loved on the other.
Right.
Pretty simple science.
Yeah.
But to the people that are so focused on their life, not nature life, let's just call it corpo life, whatever a cool slang would be, that you're just deteriorating. And it's funny because you're saying so much in such a like little statements that can go on to like 15 different segments.
I'm having to stop
but dude,
myself.
You're doing so you're like, it's blowing my mind because it's educational, it's informational, but at the same time, man, you have a really cool peace demeanor about you where you're not coming off and for those that are listening, I'm getting to know this guy in this moment. You're not coming off super preachy, and that, like I tell people this sometimes, like, tell me about your God without speaking, because we're so prone as a species to like,
yes.
And when there's something attractive and there's something working, usually by byproduct of that, people want it, and I want what you have. And I think that anyone who's listening that's suffering, get in line. We're all suffering to some capacity on something, whether it's mental, physical, both.
Yeah.
And it sounds so, hug a tree and give a turtle a high five, but there is a lot of substance behind it. Get outside, and it's working for me, and it's working for a lot of people, and it can't hurt. And it's literally, if you take, you take 2 people and think about it. Put one guy in a queue for 12 hours a day, put one guy on the beach. What's just going to probably be the happier of the 2? It's a fact of, and like you said, I like how you're breaking it down where the nature's dance.
Yes.
It's beautiful, bro.
Yeah.
It's so true because society's not allowing us to enjoy the dance.
Right.
We're not supposed to enjoy it. I was on the phone with a very dear friend of mine who's really, if there's one thing I don't have a lot of monetary, but if there's one thing that I've slowly but surely acquired more and more of over the last decade plus, is just peace and time. And that's why I think some of these really lucrative type folk have taken a minute sometimes, said, I want your life.
Right. I
don't have their house. I don't have their car. But I have time. And it's, this poor friend of mine was sharing with me we've all been there, where those super corpo scary meetings.
Yeah.
Like, you're on a 90-day trial probation period because you haven't been working and it's instead of saying, hey, you suck at your job, why not? It's like, hey, maybe you need a day or 2 to yourself.
Right.
But instead we're going to fear factor you.
Right. Or maybe we'll figure out how to make the office a more productive environment by bringing in things that are conducive to building motivation and energy. Right. In their I mean, there are some companies that, it seems to be anyway, some companies that are getting, more into that. But
for the most part, and it's tough because I've never been a guy that's yielding $1 million a day either. So I don't know, once that cycle starts and you've created that beast, do you really care about someone's dietary needs when you're running a conglomerate and you've made $67 billion in profit last year? I don't know. Maybe you care about what your dog and your kids are eating, but maybe you don't care about the 700,000 employees you have. It's just by consequence of nature that you just can't care. And there is that fine line. The more and more I watch I watch a lot of people's YouTube channels that are, I hope, not influenced by the man. Right. And some of these channels I've been watching have been hovering around where businesses are in this day and age. And it's all unprecedented. We've never had companies yielding $67 billion in revenue, whether it's off a pill, whether it's off a phone, whether it's off an app. It's a lot of money.
Way more sophisticated than people know, just because there's so much money involved.
Right.
I won't name the company, but they sell consumer packaged goods. Let's call it like a food or something. Some sort of food. It is a food. And I was privy to information about their marketing campaigns. It was like a Psych 101 lesson. They actually brought psychologists in on how to make their product more appealing, attractive, more addictive, and how to appeal at all costs. And it's just like, it's super, super sophisticated. Money's the bottom line for sure.
But I was talking about this with somebody the other day. I'm not an American right now where I'm upset with anyone, anything. Because once again, I believe I got 6 inches in front of my face that I'm worrying about right now. I'm not, am I still saving a creature if I can? Yep. Am I raping and pillaging when I find out you go to SeaWorld anymore? Nope. Do you think?
Right.
But when it comes down to these conglomerates, and there's a lot of people like Amazon didn't pay any taxes and boom, boom. Like, look, man, with these companies, what did you say earlier was really powerful? I use the phone, it doesn't use me.
Right.
And that pertains to almost everything in life, whether it's your job, your anything, right?
Yeah.
If you're using it.
Right.
And it's really powerful when you get, I was on a big Al Pacino kick the other day, and I watched a movie that was actually not even that entertaining, but educational, where Al Pacino and the dude that was the gladiator, what's his name? It's the gladiator.
What was the movie?
It's an old movie. This is where the comments start going crazy. Like, it's this one, you idiot. I can't believe I'm forgetting that guy. The Gladiator, the great guy. He's an
Russell
actor.
Crowe?
Russell Crowe.
Yeah.
Russell Crowe, Al Pacino. Al Pacino's working for 60 Minutes. Russell Crowe has been fired and or threatened with his job, and he was working for one of the largest tobacco companies back in the 70s.
Okay.
Whistle blows.
Yeah.
Being threatened, et cetera, et cetera. I'm sure there's some Hollywood pizzazz to it, but the silver lining to that story was they're in the business of nicotine.
Right.
Now the general public and the humans know, like, yeah, it's nicotine.
Yeah.
But 60s, 70s, and for millennia prior to that, you just thought you were smoking some earth herb.
Right. Tobacco or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
And it was this natural.
Right.
And that's little did we know then the hundreds of millions and billions of dollars. It was chemistry.
Right.
And to me, the minute a business is making in the upwards of anything more than $5 in this day and age, the smart ones are going right to the chemistry bank,
right,
and or the psychological bank.
Yes,
I can guarantee you, in documentaries for millennia to come, are going to start dipping more into what Apple has done and continues to do.
Right,
that their product just almost looks delicious.
Yeah,
and fun to touch.
Yeah,
these aren't accidents.
Right. There's supposedly some information out there. You would think I would probably have looked more into this, but that throughout the progress of technology, they figured out ways to generate certain flicker rates or things inside devices that make it more addictive. Like they did it with television. I know that.
Right.
With the inception of the TV, that made people entranced.
Yep.
It's probably has something to do with brainwave activity.
Probably
puts you in a sort of like that daytime meditative, maybe like an alpha wave brain state.
And and I love, once again, the way that you're presenting it and the way that we're having our discussion is I'm not mad at anybody.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to sit here and like get off the grid. And
Right.
you're like, I know we're headed for the matrix.
Yeah.
Don't fight it. I'm using it.
No
Do I
doubt.
think that I've probably shaved off a decent chunk of my life by having a phone next to me? 100%. Do I know when I'm eating? Thank God I don't think I haven't participated in some of those companies that you were referring to before.
Right.
For quite some time. But there's still, you could take this to a whole nother level where my wife's now involved with understanding fragrances, a whole nother hundreds of billions of dollars past our pay grade of scientists learning how to,
Right.
Disney's been doing it a long time.
Yeah.
It's not by consequence when you're walking around Disney that you get those smells.
Right.
They're
Right.
on purpose. There's
Right.
actually documentaries. Once again, you're not going to find, and I've had this discussion with a lot of my family over the dinner table, because I don't have these types of talks in the dance. Unless I know we're dancing together, I don't want to be that guy where like,
Right.
yeah, okay, guy. because I just, once again, if you want to go to SeaWorld, go to SeaWorld. I don't care anymore. I'm not going. But
Don't
when
go
I
to SeaWorld. No. Well, don't.
But when you having discussions in the dances, I love it.
Yeah.
But the crazy thing is, I've tried it because I've had my family say to me, like, everything you see on the internet, you can't believe. Like, yeah, I know, no.
Right.
But when I'm educating myself off of a independently owned YouTube channel, take that information, then do your own research.
Yeah.
And for when I found out, it really was this awesome, like 20, 30-minute little documentary this guy did about the aromatic influence that Disney has perfected since the 70s.
Wow.
You walk in, there are literally, and he's somewhat of a whistleblower, but not really, because Disney doesn't really. Okay, so yeah, big deal.
Right.
How they're doing it, we don't really know.
Right.
What's in the actual, but there are machines throughout Disneyland and Disney World.
Yeah.
And they're not just blowing the cookie smell from the cookies.
Right.
These are
manufactured
aromas that are literally constructing your psychology.
Yes. Yeah.
Whether to buy, whether to chill, whether to be excited.
There's the same on the same tip. So you're talking about I don't know if it's a soliton but there's a vibrational frequency to smell.
Didn't know that.
So there's a vibrational frequency to technology. And so basically, just like it sculpts the landscape of your mind, so does the technology does the same thing through frequencies, through light patterns and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, they no doubt use the same sort of playbook to keep you, wanting that, that iPhone 10 or X or whatever,
I don't even know anymore either.
I mean,
but once again, for those that are listening or anytime that you do listen to this, I don't think you nor I, or the kind of the cut that we are coming from is not, live in a box, screw the world, rape and pillage, burn Amazon to the ground,
right.
Go back to, tending your own garden, like do what you may with it.
Right.
But know it's there.
One thing I would just say is like people can totally, this is just so easy, just like how I started experimenting with unplugging the router. I mean, just see, you might have enough, in the energy bank, your battery might, especially it's summertime, you're getting outside more at the beach, whatever, you might have enough in the tank where you might not notice much of a difference. But one of the biggest things I notice with clients across the board, I get definitely clients that tend to be, have certain professions that really mess with them, firefighters, nurses, pilots, more than any other professions,
right?
Night shift workers. But yeah, you can do your own experimentation, your own N=1, where go ahead and try it for a couple of weeks. Just try it. And then, see how you sleep, see how you feel, see what your energy is like. I mean,
I like what you're throwing out there because it's not, and now for $19.99, click at the bottom of the link. It's
well, I can tell you that over the years, I've done hacks and things to be able to build your own internal resistance. I can still blow your mind well beyond the general information. However, you don't need to, if you want to go to that extent, but at least, dabble in it and see. Like I said, energy is everything. Energy leads to disease, but on an acute level or on a day-to-day basis, it's like you said, something was off if I didn't get my time, so unplug the router and you might sleep better.
Yeah.
And if you happen to miss that day, or don't miss the day at the beach or your swim or whatever, you're going to be that much happier, that much more motivated, that much more at peace.
Right.
It's funny because people talk about, like, a lot of the buzzwords are like, which is great, these meditation and yoga and the oxytocin breath. And I don't know if you've ever heard of these things, but these are things people do to induce deeper states of calm, to produce standing alpha waves in the brain. Well, shit, the wild human did that every day by being around a fire.
Mm-hmm.
That infrared light. I mean, you've sat around a fire.
Yep.
When's the last time you sat around a fire?
It's a long, I can't remember.
Right. And wild humans would do it probably 364. They'd probably miss one day a year. They'd carry fire with them, shelter it in the rain. But you're getting that natural flicker. So that soft flicker, the soft coloring of the lighting, the warmth, the infrared energy. All of this stuff we're getting from fire every single night, just like we get from the sun and whatnot from nature, but it's just another element. So you didn't have to sit there and meditate for 2 to 3 hours. All you had to do was just sit by the fire. Real easy.
This
very
is really
passive.
Good stuff, man. Because what you're blowing my mind with the fact that because as a species now, it's more productivity, which inevitably ends up making less happiness. It's a byproduct. That's my belief.
Yeah. And
it can be argued, but with more productivity, you're not out there unless there are those careers and jobs that you're outside. So that could be playing devil's advocate. If someone was like, well, I work in the landscape industry, or I'm a telephone repairman, etc. But there is still something I feel that with that, then you're maybe still got to take your time to just relax, right?
Yes.
And it's so funny because we're just becoming more and more of a species of band-aiding what we're
right.
And it's funny because I would have never thought about it, nor have I ever thought about it, that the yogas, the breath works and things of that nature, which I'm sure we're advocating for. They're great.
Yes.
They're great outlets.
Yes.
But we didn't, we were getting a substantial amount of that same, let's just say the good qualities of the outcome of that by just taking a walk, to find the food, to be by the fire, to cook it, and the companionships, the communications, the tribal hunter-gatherer type of, it's really that's really fascinating, man.
If you, and meditation, and you were mentioning CBD and all of this stuff is great, but maybe if you've got a health issue and you live on the 17th floor of a building in Manhattan, I don't care how much pot you smoke or how much you meditate, it's probably not going to have the intended effect on your nervous system that it should to be of any benefit.
That's powerful stuff. I don't know one person that lives out in those type of concrete jungles that goes, I just love it. They love
I'll tell you this. Look, I have a client that I was talking to recently that's in Chicago. And I told him, I'm like, there are things that, like I said, there are things that feed us, that create ATP, this people and nature. And if you don't get it from nature, which Chicago is short on, you better have a very robust social life. Because you can get it from people. Like, I mean, you get that energy from, especially like if the people in the room care about each other, that's important, and so, there are ways to make sure that
you're not super deprived.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah. So,
but it's still a byproduct of, once again, productivity. High rises fit more people.
Right.
Versus displace.
Right.
Horizontally.
Yeah.
And it's and also, more people, more frequencies, more stress, more anger.
I wanted to be there. I was in Chicago for 10 years. I lived in downtown Chicago. I wanted to be there.
I think, this is a part of the show where, like, I was there too. Like, I think those that know me personally, I'm still figuring it out, but I was there. I was chasing I was believing the lies that the man was telling me.
Right.
One more year, buddy.
Yeah. Right.
Your acronym changes.
Yep. There was a post I put on Instagram with this. You've seen those machines where you put the quarter in and it pushes the money closer to the edge.
I've seen those.
And my son is like, all about it. And all the other kids are all about it. And I'm like looking at this machine, seeing this money dangle there. And it's just like, wow, so many analogies for modern life. Just one more pull, one more quarter, one more attempt, one more this, that, or the other. And there's the payout coming. But we all know that game is not rigged It's rigged, to siphon money below your level of perception. It's, not rigged for you to, to gain. That's not to, and again, not hating, just to sap anybody's drive or ambitions, or we all have our own path, and hopefully,
Well, there's a with anything, there's always going to be the extreme.
Mm-hmm.
So what we are discussing today, there's absolutely the people out there going fully anarchist and going, burn it to the ground.
Right.
Aliens are coming, and it does all this. It's so futile anyways. Just kill everybody.
And not healthy, because it's I'm not 100% right about this stuff.
And I appreciate you saying that, because I've told people too, like, I don't know, it's working for me. And I've learned, once again, talk about your God, whatever it may be, without speaking is so powerful.
Right.
But when you're asked, when someone says, for instance, being 35 and still playing the sport of soccer, and seeing guys that are 10 years my junior, and their cardiovascular is not of that. It took me years to figure out that what you're doing more off the pitch, so to speak, is more important than what you're doing on the pitch. Because a great man said it once, and he grew up with me, and he said, when it's time to dance, you don't fail there, you fail here, you fail off the dance floor. So that when you go to dance, and I'm using the dance because I'm loving that. Is that okay?
Yeah.
When you go to dance, that's where you try to execute where you failed in your own grind.
Yeah.
And it was powerful, because as anyone, whether it's sports, whether it's job, whether it's companionship, you feel like there's always the go time. There's always that, whether it's a speech, etc. That's the time that you utilized all the practice.
Right.
And that's where you perform. But if you're not practicing off, and once again, I think it reflects in all life. Have you noticed too, in my belief, people that are staying committed to some kind of physical activity, whether it's surfing, swimming, something that requires some kind of tenacity of physical endurance.
Right.
Those that are pursuing that and executing it well in the midst of that activity, there's this like euphoric release of I got it, I did it. Yeah. And of course, it doesn't make you a better person. You're not saving the world of AIDS. You're not but when you're, I'm not usually going for depth when I'm free diving, but I just want to be out there.
Right.
And it's just this, I don't know. It's really, it's good to just not anything in extreme. Right. So you seem to be a really rooted dude. And once again, I appreciate you being vulnerable and saying, you didn't wake up this way.
Right.
Day one.
Yeah, no doubt.
And that's what I want all of those that know me personally, and those that are listening to the show whenever you can. We don't know what the hell is really going on. And no one really does.
Right.
Some of the best people that have mentored me, I do believe in surrounding yourself by people that are older than you to some capacity. Whether it's a minute, whether it's 10 years, 50 years.
That's ancient wisdom.
Just get around somebody, and they'll, in a moment of vulnerability, they'll tell you, like, I don't really know what's going on either. And their exposure has only been one, geographically speaking, the average human really only lives, you may travel and you go places, but where is your footprint?
Right.
Like, right there.
Yeah.
So your exposure to your climate, your exposure to your society, your town is not going to be the same to a dude in Alaska and in here. So the wisest people that have seemed to be influencing me, and I'm so thankful for, are the ones that kind of just say what you did. Where like, I don't really know if I'm right.
Right.
But there's a lot of data. But like you said, why don't you try unplugging your router?
Yeah.
Just try it.
Yeah.
What's the worst going to happen? You don't get that cool pic collage.
Right.
You don't get that time hop in the morning, and I actually challenge anybody out there, don't watch TV in bed. Try that.
There are a few people close to me or that I care about in my life. I see video game addiction is a huge problem. And one of the things I recommend for somebody who's like into that, like, how do I stop that? How do I break that? Like, definitely it's by doing the things we talked about, by getting out in nature more often. You're sort of protecting yourself against that, but get a pair of Skypers, get a pair of, there's the company I like is Raw Optics, RA Optics.
What are these you're speaking of?
Blue light blocking glasses. I'm sorry. Yeah, a pair of blue light blocking glasses. I mean, gamers do it to avoid eye fatigue and strain. They're like these amber colored glasses.
I didn't even know what they did. I got them.
So they're touted, among gamers to extend their game playing time, right? However, if you're doing it at night, it's actually blocking higher frequencies of light, allowing melatonin to be released. So you're going to get tired automatically. And I've got a cool story that I actually shared on my website. And when I first started learning about light frequencies and its effect on your biology through the retinal pathways into the hypothalamic tract, into the hypothalamus, and I started playing with getting some incandescent light bulbs, downloading Iris. Actually, it was Flux back then, downloading Flux on my laptop or whatever. Just controlling my lighting environment. Incandescent lights, amber colored lights at night, sort of like mood lighting, right? And I was already seeing these benefits, and just by living in the house, my wife at the time was benefiting from my experimentation because I changed everything in the house. Was curious, just went and made the changes that I could make. And she had a business trip to go on. She goes in our room to put on, try her suits on, whatever. She hadn't, been out of town in a while on business. And she's like, none of these suits fit me. They're all too big. Wow, that's interesting.
It's usually the other way.
Right. And this was around the holiday time. She wasn't really much for exercise or diet or anything. Pretty healthy person. Like, gosh, that's, it's interesting. Around Christmas time, we're, eating more,
fluffy season,
more holidays. Exactly. And I'm like, is there something to this? Is there something to EMF? And what I discovered was there is something to blue light frequency after sunset and the increase in blood sugar levels without consuming food.
Wow.
So insulin levels spiked and you become more insulin resistant with the blue light in your face. So the advent of technology. So is it the food or is it the lighting? So there are so many things that, probably that I didn't pay attention that probably changed with us and in us. I thought, all right, this is interesting. So I thought, well, I'm going to tell people this and everybody's going to want to jump on board. Everybody was like, yeah, whatever. Her boss at the time was working late at night, tons of, weight issues, mood issues, energy issues, working late into night, 2:00 in the morning. So I just suggested that she put on a pair of those blue blockers. Then she told my wife that she said, I'm getting tired at 9 or 10 o'clock at night. And she's like, well, that's normal. That's what's supposed to happen. She lost weight. Her mood changed. Her energies changed. She slept better. Her body composition changed. She maybe within a few weeks after that made a decision not to be her boss anymore. So it changed her perspective.
Wow.
Literally, that's what your light frequency does. Is actually, you ever been to vacation or like, well, we live in a sunny place,
right,
where people come here and they're like, man, it's like somebody turned up the brightness in my brain. It's mood enhancement. It's stimulation on certain parts of the brain, the PVN of the brain. And so she, through getting rid of those, getting rid of those aberrant waveforms of light, those unnatural ones, she actually, changed her biology.
Blowing my mind. It's fantastic.
So
it's not like, I was going to say she was reborn, but if you really think about it, you were almost boiling it back down to what you probably should have been before all of the
right. Wow. Yeah. So, these little.
Are you wearing these glasses at night?
I mean, yeah.
Or do you have?
I don't. Like I said, don't sweat it too much.
Right.
If I don't feel like I'm not much of a night person, not going out anywhere. If there's fire or it's a house party or something like this, then, great. I'm not going to the clubs or whatever. But I changed the lighting in my place.
But like if you're on your computer or your phone and you're watching a YouTube clip and it's after sunfall, do you have like a
it's probably,
or you have your filters on?
It's probably best, but I have the filters on. The filters won't block out everything.
Right.
But if you have major sleep problems, pay attention to your light. If you want to see some improvement, okay, well, pay attention. But you don't maybe have to go crazy about it. But again, this whole gaming situation where they're up till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, it's like, man, messing with their sleep cycles just because they're up to 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, but then getting that blue light stimulus into the brain that's saying, hey, it's daytime, eat, body, stay awake, don't release melatonin, don't repair, don't whatever. Far-reaching effects. I mean, I'm not kidding when I say that I change the environments of people. I see skin changes, body composition changes, mental, cognitive changes, sleep changes. I had a guy whose sleep was so bad, he was hallucinating in the middle of the night. Wow. Hallucinating. And it's rewarding to see these changes. It's difficult to follow up. This is a very long-term sort of thing. But was at the fish market one day and I hear from my back, there's the guy that fixed my sleep. And I knew right away he was talking about me. This guy couldn't sleep for shit. I mean,
wow.
So yeah.
Do you know that's like, I've been coined as a dude that when I'm out in the dance, I like to ask questions that are not about what you do.
Right.
How's the weather?
Yes.
Saw the news.
Yep.
I like to just ask what's on the top of my head. And one of those things that seem to be, and it's not a condescending question because it's really curious, is, are you getting a good 8? Good 8 to 10? And I ask it, and it's not the first question, nor is it the last, but it's in the middle of, as I'm someone wants to get to know me, and I throw off my vibes with people is, without a doubt, to this day, 90% plus of the general dancers have no clue what I do. And that's actually on purpose. Because it has nothing to do with who I am. It's my lifestyle.
Right.
But in this moment, we're together.
Right.
And in this moment, where's your vulnerabilities? Because I have some too. And sleep, man, as I'm playing this adult world in this consumer driven world, it seems to be, no one's sleeping.
No. Well, and you know what? Let's do something super functional for people here. Let's define good sleep. I've had it defined. The brain surgeon, Dr. Cruz, that the guy that I read a lot of his literature or a lot of his works, his blogs. He defined good sleep as being like you were put under for surgery. He said you should go to sleep, not be cognizant of sleeping, meaning you're not tossing or turning or waking, and it should be when you wake up, you feel like what happened, sort of like that, and I've actually achieved that. Not all the time, but let me not exaggerate. We do live in the modern world. It's very difficult, but camping and being out in the cold, there are different ways to actually, you have systems of redundancy in the body. So the different ways to actually, besides mitigating your EMF or lowering EMF exposure, to hack into ancient pathways that help build your own internal resistance. But good sleep is like being, I have a hard time saying this word, but anesthetized.
Okay.
And people will say, well, I wake up because I have to pee. It's my bladder. Your body's supposed to be dormant.
Right.
You wake up. Sometimes you wake, like if you get a good night's sleep, right, and your body's really dormant, wake up, man, you have to piss like a racehorse. Right? It's like, wow, how did I hold that in? And it's just like, and then you'll wake up in the middle of the night, maybe if you had, alcohol or were under the lights of the field at soccer, and a little bit more agitated, and you wake up in the middle of the night, your body's not as relaxed as it should be, not achieving maybe the delta or the theta, brain waves. And people think, well, and then you wake up and I don't have to go much, but I had to go. No, your body was just waking up. I was just telling somebody the other day, you can go to bed with an upset stomach. If you're getting good quality sleep, you won't notice that upset stomach in the middle of the night. Your body's dormant. But you wake up, and first thing, as soon as you wake up, or that cortisol response that happens right before you wake up, precipitating that wakefulness, then you notice it. It's because, well, your body's reanimated. It's woken.
Right.
It's, awakened again. So good sleep should be, you don't really notice much. You don't wake. You should be sleeping through the night. I mean, I honestly, like, I've seen clients that maybe were north of 70 that were, after a certain amount of time, not just EMF mitigation, but other things and protocols that you can do, that weren't waking in the middle of the night. Not every one of them, but it's achievable. Dream recall. I asked, that's a good question. What are your dreams like? Some people be like, even kids, I don't dream. Oh yeah, you do. You're not recalling those dreams.
I'm getting a lot of that.
And dream recall is like maybe like some synaptic pruning going on in the brain, things that you've learned during the day and are making sense of.
Right.
Your brain's trying to make sense of that at night. But dream recall is a good sign. If you wake up and you're like, oh, I remember, and they're pleasant dreams, or believe it or not, sexual dreams actually is a good sign.
Right.
And so it's like, if you're waking up and you like these visions are sort of popping into your head, like, yeah, oh, I remember that, or this and that from the dream, then that's another good sign of good quality sleep. They're all sort of like,
the recipe.
Yeah, but they're all like barometers for sleep, just
right.
regular conventional ways to gauge
Well, this
your
is
sleep.
really interesting because I'm in the category of good sleep, thank God. Cool. Not always have been. And I used to suffer with that. I used to just write it off to being a struggling entrepreneur, and I wanted to burn SeaWorld to the ground. And I just thought, but it really it was probably a lot of other outside exposure to things. But point is, when I'm talking and when I'm dancing and I'm talking with people, when the sleep comes up in discussion, which is usually, once again, the common denominator I have with everyone, to a stranger, to a friend, to a family. And once again, it's not preaching, right? It's more curiosity.
Yeah.
And dude, I was talking about this literally 2 nights ago with somebody at Breakaways, and I said, "Are you getting a good 8 to 10?" And they're like, "It was no." And once again, I don't usually even say it that verbatim because I don't want to. I never come off. It's not a condescending question,
right? It's
trying to be conducive to talking, to them. And she started to share with me that no. But she used to be, and dreams happen to come up. This is so crazy why you even brought up dreams, that I didn't even know that basically coexisted with good sleep meant dreaming. But then I amplified it and I told her, I don't know if she really understood what I meant when I said, do you lucid dream? Have you ever had a lucid dream? And she's like, yeah, all the time. And I think she thought I meant, do you remember your dreams? Because I personally have only had less than 10, maybe 5-ish lucid dreams in my lifetime, more in the last handful of years than ever. And they're not habitual. It's not like the same reoccurring thing. I don't know how to explain it, but a very dear friend of mine is a neuroscience. So she's usually the first one I call or text and like, what does this mean? And I don't go into super depth, like, well, I dreamed my teeth were falling out, so that means I'm losing money. Like I don't get into that, even though that I think that there's some validity behind it.
Right.
But man, I cherish my dreams so much, and I can't like I said, it's not the same one over and over again. But dreaming, I didn't know. I mean, I guess it's pretty simple science. Obviously, if you're dreaming, you're hitting REM, right? But it's a powerful thing, and I feel so bad when and if it does come up in conversation that, dude, I don't know what the statistics is. I mean, these sleeping pills companies know,
right? But
no one's sleeping.
No. Well, one disturbing thing is that when my son or my niece or they'll have kids, spend the night, like maybe every third kid is taking melatonin, supplemental melatonin. Kids.
Damn.
Which is not a good idea.
I didn't even know what melatonin was till like yesterday.
Right.
Their kids are taking melatonin.
Yes, to go to sleep.
Bro.
Yeah. And kids are having all sorts of problems that they just didn't have. The brain surgeon, Dr. Cruz, said that in his clinic he would get people in, teenagers with sex steroid, low testosterone, sleep issues. He's like, 25 years ago, I didn't see this. Wow. Yeah. It's what's the common denominator? Technology. They're in front of something, and used to be when we were kids, that TV was across the room, and now it's closer and closer and closer. I mean, I don't know if that has if that's the effect we're seeing, but but technology is definitely the common denominator.
That, once again, you're delivering this in such a cool, chill way where you're not like it's Jeff Bezos, like you're not, and there's a lot of that. Yeah. But I feel we are in this, first of all, it's all foreign. Mm-hmm. No one knows what's really going on.
Yeah.
But there's this perfect storm of really, what in the world are we eating?
Yeah.
Unless you're actually farming in your backyard,
right,
to your table, what exposure is it getting from transport to you? I don't care what. And I told my wife this because since I've known her, she's always been the organic. Mm-hmm. And it's funny how that market has changed. It was first, it went, well, go back to fat free. Isn't that funny
right,
how counterintuitive that was? And then fat free. It's like, well, wait a minute. Cholesterol, then, you think about it now, and now the educated person, it doesn't mean that I'm not educated, but I know well enough to know my brain is cholesterol.
Right.
And then we get on these cholesterol depleting type of pills because my cholesterol's high.
Yeah.
There goes your brain matter.
Yeah.
And then we're dealing with this new, unfortunate, another curse word of dementia.
Right.
Alzheimer's. And
these things, the cognitive declines in dementia seem to be comorbid with statin use. And yeah, we have this silly idea that we have to reduce our cholesterol as low as possible, that the lower we get, the better.
It's weird, man. It's once again, and no one's got it perfected. Mm-hmm. So anyone listen to this, by no means are we like, do exactly what we're doing. No. But if you're dealing with an ailment, I bet you the first 10 things that someone's unfortunately going to tell you to do are probably not right. Right. Because there's some type of revenue-driven process and they're systematic. Something.
Yeah, even if they're well-meaning.
Well-meaning. Like, for instance, Adam, EMF, I buy those. I don't even know what the hell they're doing, to be honest with you. I'm hoping, but I'm at least pursuing something that's not. I liked, once again, in your bio, how it wasn't something that was internal, it was external.
Right.
Before you start, my cholesterol's high, take a pill. Well, why don't we for 30 days chill? I don't know. And you know what's really crazy? I'm having the cholesterol thing happening in my family now, where as I'm the 30-something nothing in my family. So now my parents and uncles and the cholesterol thing really starts to hit. Well, it's very easy. And no, I'm not trying to knock any physician out there, and I'm not trying, because unfortunately they're plugged in. They're plugged into the system, and they've got, that's a whole nother issue in itself when you're seeing 1,000 patients a month. Like, how intimate can you actually get with that one person? But point is, someone very dear to me and my family gets on this thing, gets on one of those pills.
Yeah.
And once again, man, without trying to burn SeaWorld to the ground, I try to just say, like, have you looked into this thing? And what's crazy is that high cholesterol, the first 5 ways of lowering it are like exercise, diet, high fives, this. But if you can't achieve those, then we have this pill.
Yeah.
And you say to the average person, and once again, I am not knocking, if anyone's dealing with those ailments and you've tried those things, and then okay, we are a very sophisticated species, and there are things that we can take and stuff. But my angle is, let's exhaust all the externals. Let's exhaust the homeopathic type of internals.
Right.
And then if those two have been exhausted, then maybe, if maybe you have to.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like I took some medical courses in graduate school, and, even back then the professors were, well, we don't really know if there's an accident scene. Basically, this was sort of the analogy. There's an accident scene and cholesterol is on the scene. Cholesterol is, the blood on the scene, but did the blood cause the accident, or was the, is the cholesterol the issue, or is it the arterial damage? Is it the spaces and the defilate in the damaged arteries that's collecting the cholesterol? Is the cholesterol the problem? The cholesterol is there to repair. And we make the majority of our cholesterol is synthesized in our liver without food input. The majority of our cholesterol we don't get exogenously from food.
Interesting. Did not know that.
Yeah. So,
but I think it's unfortunate.
It's effective in the way that basically it could probably stop an immediate coronary event. Like if you really got a problem, you're right on right at the edge, at the end, whatever, then it's because it's taking the substance that is blocking it up, but it's not the reason that it's getting blocked up in the first place. It's the damage. It's the inflammation.
Right. Inflammation, man. That's I'm learning that one. I'm in that one. I'm in the inflammation world.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been on this. I've never been.
Inflammation isn't always bad, but go ahead.
Really? Well, yeah, because it's a natural byproduct of trying to heal the body and keep things that are injured protected.
Right. Well, and there's a time of day and a season, and of that inflammation is actually it's so complicated, But go ahead. Sorry.
No, I mean that's that whole. I'm sure we'll dance on that for a hot minute because. So I was growing up in Flagler County and this area. Us that grew up around here, we know that alcohol was a common denominator, which I'm sure it's in most communities. But once again, my footprint
seems to be
it's just it was part of my dietary.
Yeah.
Now I've never had an issue where I was losing my marbles and raping and pillaging and killing people. Like I was just using it as a means of communication. Right. Like it wasn't. I didn't drink alone. I wasn't losing, and of course, I'm sure there's a wee bit of that denial. We're like, I wasn't drinking much, and it was 4 days a week, 5 days a week. Point is, I've been trying to throttle back to once to twice a month, literally.
Right.
Where I'm talking debauchery, which is already stupid to still even be doing that, but I want to play. And I've noticed that. So it's been about 6 months. I've really, really, really throttled back my healing time, my healing time alone. I used to wake up after a day of soccer, and especially in the summer months, just that heat, that throbbing, like whether it was a contusion or whether it was just wear and tear. My knees were hot.
Right.
Everything was. I'm hot, and I'm ice. I'm just iced. I want ice. I'm dehydrated, dude. I've been doing pretty good at throttled way back with my alcohol intake. And I've been on this train of the turmeric and black pepper, some kind of mix that my wife, witch doctor, has been making for me. And
anti-inflammatory mix.
Dude, I feel so much better.
Huh.
Now, this sounds so stupid to the average person. Like, you don't drink a lot, you feel better, whoop-de-doo. But when you're, it's part of our society, especially Flagler Beach. Right. Small little sleeping town with a drinking problem and some fishing problems and surfing problems. Like, we're chill. Yeah. You can't walk somewhere without someone going, hey. Yeah. It you don't. To me, I was one of those guys a handful of years ago where I'm like, oh God, I'm not. I don't feel good. Take something.
Right.
Take an Advil.
Yeah.
Take an ibuprofen. Take this because I've got pain.
Yeah.
Versus like, well, wait a minute, man. Maybe that bottle of Tito's last night, or whatever it is. All these things. What's your opinion on this inflammatory? Are you at a good place right now with your dietary? Like, how does inflammation actually? How is it good? Excluding when it's protecting contusion or something. There's actually times of years, etc.
Well, so in the summertime, inflammation is going to be higher, right? You're more active. So daytime inflammation levels will be higher. Nighttime, they should be lower.
Okay.
There are ways to reduce inflammation that I would say are far superior to even turmeric and black pepper.
Please tell me.
Cold.
Haha.
Cold exposure.
Are you into
just like putting, an ice wrap on an injury, but I don't think that, I don't think that that's necessarily that, well, I'm just going to constantly put ice on it and then always restrict blood flow to that. There's point of diminishing returns. I think there's a point of diminishing returns with alcohol, with nicotine, with caffeine, with all of these things that we talked about. I think that there's a little bit of benefit to all of that stuff, believe it or not. But, if it's a problem, then it's a problem. Then if it starts to negatively affect you because you consume so much of it, or because there's other things amiss, then that needs to be taken into the equation. But back to the inflammation thing, red light therapy, cold, watching the sunrise and sunset, a lot of infrared and red light, fire, all of these things that wouldn't ordinarily, just huge photobiomodulation, light therapy, laser light, red light therapy is big. Adam's got a K laser.
I love that thing.
There's, infrared, red light, tent lights. I don't want to name, I don't know, but there's, and they're just frequencies of light, 880 nanometers, 660 nanometers, whatever. But it's huge in driving down inflammation. It works with a different part of the mitochondria, but it's huge. But some people will combine, ice baths with, red light therapy or something like that to drive down inflammation. This drives it up. So does the sun. So does daytime. But the blue light that drives up inflammation in the sun makes up about 27 of the natural light spectrum. The stuff from, artificial lights, like 95% maybe. I'm not sure. It's like in the 90s somewhere, but 90% blue light. So you want to bring down inflammation? Put blue blockers on. Don't watch TV or be on the computer late at night. I mean, people say, well, go to sleep. Yeah, go to sleep, sure. But sit in front of a fire. Have your beer in front of a fire, not in front of the TV.
Love it.
Have your wine, your scotch, whatever. Don't go silly with it. Don't go crazy with it. Everybody's had that where they've had a drink and felt like, woo, yeah, I feel amazing, feel good, and then you stop.
Right. I've been trying to get there.
There's a theory of mine that I think that, with kids, it's kind of like you want, what can I do to prevent this from being a problem later on in life? And I think that basically it's like, you have some people's bodies, they call for it because it's like they're in pain. There's something missing. Maybe it's dopamine. And maybe that drink, does something, increases energy flow in the body to the brain. Caffeine does that. Caffeine does the stimulation. Adderall, all these stimulants do that. And they excite the paraventricular nucleus of the brain. They bring happiness to the brain. They light you up. And it's just like, okay, well, I need more of that, and alcohol can do that to a certain extent. And then you get to the point where, all right, I'm going into dehydration. I'm going into this alcohol is killing my liver. It's affecting me negatively.
I guess it's as the golden rule, right? Like anything in excess.
Well, yes, but it's just like energy. Get your energy. Go get energy.
Right.
Go get energy. It's not impossible, but it's more difficult.
It's getting more difficult
in this world.
One thing that I like more about still playing the beautiful game of soccer is that before and or after a game, just taking your cleats off and being on some grass.
Yeah.
Even though I'm probably staying in pesticides, I'm I'm on grass and excluding the beach walks, excluding that, but it's good to be in the earth. I'm a big believer in that too.
Right.
It's once again, it seems with the people that I chill with, it's simple science. It's common knowledge. It's like, duh. But there is a large population of people that I know don't get it. They don't. And once again, I just know because I just know their lifestyles. I know, for instance, I bet you 90% plus of cholesterol issues are people that probably haven't walked on grass too. There's all these common denominators. And I'm not saying all those. I'm not trying to sound that ridiculous, people, so don't freak out. I'm like, walk on grass and your cholesterol goes down and you'll win the lottery. But I am a believer in these things. Oh, that's the first.
Much.
I'm a big believer. Do you do the cryo tanks?
No. I do something with, I just do cold water immersion. So,
like your own?
Well, in the ocean, yeah. And then I have a freezer that I fill. It sits outside. I fill it with water and get it down to a certain temperature and take a dip in it.
So your own bathtub?
Yeah, that's a freezer though. It's a freezer I fill with water, and it keeps the keeps the water cool.
So I have a buddy that I wonder if we're still even. Oh, we're still going. We didn't get kicked off. I have a buddy that is Navy SEAL.
Yeah.
And he's been.
Yeah, let's talk. You know what? Let's talk performance, because I mean that's like a huge.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to get into. So he's a big fan, and so is Rogan. Big fan of the sauna.
Yeah. Heat shock proteins.
Yep. Big time. And I'm not there yet because he obviously not only does the Navy SEAL guy, but also Rogan. They have their own means of getting their own. They don't have to.
Right.
I probably find a sauna up the street somewhere, but
it's actually difficult around here. They live in the north. They live in the north.
Yep.
Or Joe does. So
right, and he does too. But also he showed me he manufactured his own, whatever you want to call, ice bath apparatus, and
interesting.
Yeah, and he's all about performance. He's God bless his soul, 12 years in, a SEAL. And that's about all I know. So some of the me even sharing that's all I can tell you anyway. So I got us that grew up with him. Sometimes like, you still talking with him? What does he do? I'm like, bro, he's the epitome of a SEAL. I have no clue. I really don't know where he is. I don't know where but I love him dearly. And when and if I get to see him performing at his the apex predator. I mean, he's amazing. He's and it's not just the aesthetics. The man is in phenomenal tip top, and we're about the same age. And to see that prolonging his performance. So I've been looking into, there's 3 things I'd love to talk to you about that I'm trying to implement within my lifestyle. 1, the cryo tanks. Is that the right word? Cryo tank. 2, float tanks. 3, saunas. Yeah. Saunas I've been able to somewhat implement. Nowhere near the kind of habit I probably should be.
Right.
They're like sparse once in a blue moon when I'm somewhere and I'm like, I'm going to do it. But it's not even, they're more therapeutic. They're more like the commercialized ones. They're not the ones you have to put the hat on.
Right.
Well, that's what I want. Out of those 3 things, do you stimulate those within your routine?
For sure.
Hell yeah.
Sun is the sauna.
Nice.
Fire is the sauna. Go get a good day at the beach, swim, sun. You don't have to get burned to a crisp, but just go and get sun. Know that you got sun. A little pink, I like looking at read a lot about Native Americans, and you could see these pictures, even the black and white pictures, and you can see that these wild human beings who've spent all day outside, at the end of the day, you see these photographs of them, in the sunlight, and they're like glowing because they've been charged up with UV throughout the day. So go get sun, and then at night, go ahead and sit by a fire. I mean, you'll sweat like a demon.
Oh, because you're already kind of
and that
steamy.
Infrared will just, and I mean, you'll sweat, and that sweat will be beneficial too for your skin, actually, with helping, from the sun exposure that day. But you don't have to overdo these things, but sun and fire is a good sauna if you can't find a sauna.
Interesting.
Yeah. And it's obviously more enjoyable in the wintertime, but you can sit by a fire in the daytime. It doesn't sound pleasurable, but I like to sweat, and if you like the sauna and it's not supposed to be super pleasurable really, but,
I know what you mean.
But after a while, when that sweat kicks in, you do get pleasure from it. So that's a good idea. The cryo tanks, I've never tried one.
Okay.
They go to an insanely low temperature, and it's relatively quick, right? It's like you're in there for minutes or
something like that. Yeah. I'm not too familiar either, but I've seen them marketing them recently.
Right. So heat transfer through air is super inefficient. Through water, it's about 24 times faster. So you sit in water, and more quickly will you lose you're trying to lose try to lower the temperature on the surfaces of your skin. You don't necessarily want to get like hypothermic in your core, but you're trying to basically, here, I'll make it even real simple.
Hit me.
Right? Do it on your face. You have this trigeminal nerve reflex in your face, and they call it the mammalian. There's the trigeminal nerve, but there's something called the mammalian dive reflex. And all you have to do is just dunk your face in cold water. You don't even really have to dunk your body, and you'll get the benefits. I mean, you can, but when you don't have the time, or you don't have an ice tub, or you don't get a bowl of water, a big bowl of water, and dunk your face. I like to dunk my head in it, and you'll get the benefits from that. The cooling on the brainstem, on the carotids, on the trigeminal. So, there are easy ways to hack that. But I do like the cold tank tub.
Well, you made your own.
Yeah, I bought a freezer, filled it with water, boom.
I think that's exactly what my buddy did.
I plugged it in. I unplug it when I'm in it or something, or I don't keep it plugged all the time, kind of regulate.
What do you do, like a minute or two or three? Or?
Depends on the temperature. And it depends on you.
True.
Some people are more built for the cold. Remember we were talking about latitude and some people, if you're from Ireland, you're probably, the cold will sing to you more than if you're from the equator, if you're from Brazil.
I love this, man.
The sun will sing more to you if you're from Brazil.
I noticed that too. For instance,
your mitochondria run better. If you're from Brazil, you need the sun, strong sun. Wow. If you're from Ireland, you need the sun too. But cold will sing to you even more. You only need a little bit of sun, to stimulate. A super pale person can get high vitamin D levels pretty easily from the sun. If you've got super dark skin, not as
takes a while.
Yeah.
Float tank.
I've never done it. Want to do it?
Me too.
I put Epsom salt in the cold tub.
Nice.
But so it's like sensory deprivation, right? So you can probably do your own in a bathtub. I haven't tried it.
Me neither.
Whatever. 98-degree water, Epsom salt, earplugs, blindfold.
See what happens.
Or maybe not a blindfold, maybe a candle, whatever. Music or whatever. But I've heard a lot of people love
Rogan's a huge fan of it.
Yeah.
I think he actually has one in his studio.
Yeah.
He's so chill because he doesn't really go into depth. But whenever someone's there and they're like, man, I love the float. I'm like, oh, he's got one in there.
Meditative brainwaves.
Yeah, man.
It's basically taking all the crazy stimulation that we have in this society. And we've become to the point maybe where we're always stuck in this fight or flight. That amygdala is in overdrive. That limbic system is overdrive. So it's like you're getting all of these aberrant signals that are just like nails on a chalkboard to your mitochondria that you don't just sense, and you can't calm.
So this is what's so fascinating to me right now, because lately I've been sharing this because I think I may be preparing to be talking, whether it's to a group or individual high school students.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
There's like this mentoringship program, and I think I'm going to engage in it. So I'm already, my butterflies are going. I'm like, what the hell am I going to say? Like, what am I going to talk about? And I've been running through my head. I only have like the first 10 seconds of my speech, or for whatever you want to call it. Yeah. And I feel like it's going to say, when you close your eyes, it's going to pertain to about getting their attention and asking if they want money, et cetera. But the point of it is going to be, if you're not happy when your eyes are closed, and the person which you see, and when those eyes are closed, then don't move anywhere. It's not, your companionship's not going to make you a better person.
Right.
Your job's not going to make you a better person. And one thing that I like about the sensory deprivation that actually turns me on is I feel like we've heard about the bad trips, whether it's induced by mushrooms and or some type of, Rogan and those that I've looked into that are knowledgeable about the float tanks and the sensory deprivation in general, the bad trip or the bad experiences seem to be people that probably aren't happy when those eyes are closed, and that stimuli isn't being
maybe they get stressed out,
right?
Because then they turn inward and forget about it.
Correct. So I'm looking into it. I know I actually looked into starting one.
Yeah.
But I'm not good with business, and
There's not one around here.
There isn't, but I wasn't good. Like, it does come down to some kind of mathematical equation where you needed X amount of floats per day,
right?
For the initial investment, and I wasn't going to go franchise with it, but I was actually in discussions with Adam about me like investing and getting one and utilizing his area as place of this facility.
Cool.
But I don't know. You still ask 5 people what a float tank is or sensory deprivation, and like, bro, I don't do those things. Or I don't talk to aliens. You're like, oh no, it's not that. But I don't think we have a scene here for it yet. Maybe in the next few years. But I'm looking. I think actually, ironically, my wife's supposed to be doing one while she's away with her friend.
Ah, cool.
She's in more of a little bit. Everything's more populated than Flagler, so she's more in like a
urban area,
and I think there's one there. And I told her, I said, well, look, do it, but just. I think too, if you're doing it the right place, they have like a few options where there's like the expert one where it's like full deprivation. Yeah. Then there's ones that like have like lighting in there.
Right.
So I said, have fun with it. But worst case too, I had a mentor of mine. He was on the show back in the day when I first had started, and he had shared with him. I had no idea that he did it, but considering his character, I'm like, of course he's done one. And he said, worst case, you just put your head up,
Yeah.
Or you just open depending on the type of apparatus in which you're in, you just open it or turn it on.
Right.
But I'm looking into that, but I'm a big believer in all those 3 things that I feel. And, it's not about becoming cooler. It's just about trying to, I don't know. Do you believe? So I love having a lot of discussion. I love when Bible talk comes up with my father and I, because I like to be, my father knows the Bible back and forth, upside down, sideways, this. And I feel there's 2 ways the Bible pertains to 2 ways. There's like, you can look at it literally or you can look at it spiritually. I try to do both. But one thing I've always tried to take literally is that do you think that we used to live to be 900,000 years old? Or do you think that that's a arbitrary spiritual number that through the hundreds of times it's been translated?
Yeah.
I like to think that we did, just for fun.
I mean, I don't know. I know that I think it's laughable when people go back and say, yeah, the data shows that the caveman lived to be 30. And it's just like, or, the wild human being, hunter-gatherer or whatever before recorded times lived to be, 30. And that's because their rough lifestyle, their hard lifestyle. I don't know. I definitely think that our natural age is probably well beyond what we experience in the modern world. I do believe that. And you can see it throughout the generations. I think the oldest person is getting younger and younger as the decades go on. Like, so where the oldest person used to be 122, and now it's like, 111 or whatever. And this might not seem like a big deal, but
it's in the grand scheme of things, thousands years.
Right.
2,000 years.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's definitely interesting.
It's fascinating.
It's a curious thing.
I those are those little kind of Bible banters I like to have with my dad sometimes, where I'm like, did Jonah really go in a whale? Or did we think, but one thing I find that when you're able to back up something that's fact,
right,
I enjoy. So for instance, there's also a new experiment and or research being done that they're proving that the human brain is decreasing in size.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I've heard this.
And we, of course, there's going to always be your, this is a good thing.
Right.
This is a bad thing.
Yeah.
We're becoming more efficient.
Right.
Or we're becoming dumber.
Many different theories. It's outsourced to the gut or to different parts of the,
I hear, if I had to give my opinion, I would say I think any bigger is better. So I would imagine I don't want, of course, it's not going to happen in our time, but in the next 5,000, 10,000 years, will the human species be, will our brain matter continue to decrease?
Look at let's just dial it down to a more simple level. Look at the amount of ADD, of cognitive deficits or diseases or conditions that are caused by these cognitive deficits, autism, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, whatnot. Why are these neurodegenerative conditions happening? And if you go back to ADD and autism. So I've seen it where, parents will, if I give my son who's autistic the iPad, it's like magic. It calms them.
Right.
It's because their brains aren't being stimulated by what they're supposed to be stimulated by. That's why stimulants like Adderall and caffeine and Ritalin work so well for people with ADD. And people with ADD or ADHD might seem hyper, so maybe it's too much energy. Not enough energy. It's not enough energy on the part of the brain called the paraventricular nucleus, on the PVN. And what is a really strong source of energy? Daylight. So what do? We don't go outside anymore. But then that blue light from electronics is also a very strong signal. So it's stimulating their brains, making them happy. It's stimulating a part of their brains and actually making them happy, but in a non-regenerative way.
Right.
So over time, it's going to stretch those dopamine receptors and make it harder and harder and harder to be happy.
That part of today's chat has been probably one of many that I'm going to run with. When you talk about, because it pertains to even like life, where you have, because I went through this, I was kind of just praying, meditating a couple months ago, because I'm going through a lot of just metamorphosis growth personally. And I thought life for me is like a fish tank. And it's like you have the fish that are pretty that you buy and spend all this money on.
Right.
But they shit in your tank. You have to clean the tank.
Yeah.
And then before you know it, you either run in a fish tank for the sake of it. Ultimately, there's always a bit of vanity to some life.
Right.
But I try to find out now, like, who in your life are not just the fish, but are the filters of the tank. So I was just praying about this, and because that's part of life. You grow up and you're like, damn, man, these guys are jerks. Whoever they are, like, you're just a bunch of fish. And I'm this guy. Now that I'm learning who the fish are and who aren't, and they're still fun.
Right.
But what's interesting is that you're blowing my mind, because you're talking about when you're ingesting, for lack of better words, this light, it's not being reciprocated.
Right.
It's just,
yeah.
It's like you said, you're at a gambling machine,
right? Just
hitting the button.
Yes.
Maybe once in a while you get the ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
But it's all artificial anyways. And it's just robbing you.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's not being, for instance, where you have your son that is doing the same thing. It's giving you the energy. Right. It's releasing the dopamines, et cetera, et cetera. But it's also something that it's a reciprocal symbiotic relationship. Yes. And, you're also blowing my mind, because from a layman's perspective, I write myself off of being, I'm just codependent and I like to be around people. But there's obviously something going on way deeper than that.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Because I've noticed you give me a 7 day, there's 7 days in our calendar week, if that's what we're to believe. And I notice if I go 7 days, man, and I'm not getting some high fives and some hugs, dude, I'm tripping.
And don't be one of those people who are, trying to get something from, because that's another way to short circuit that connection and that energy.
When your motive isn't pure.
Right.
When it's not agape.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. Well, those are the fish.
Yeah. The pretty fish.
A lot of fish out in the world. and it's something that, I joke with some of my peers where I say, I wish someone would, and I'm sure the book's out there, I just haven't found it yet. But I wish I would have read a book that, kind of the cliff notes of life, kind of the morbid stuff. From, 20 to 30s, you experience death, maybe for the first time. And maybe it's family related. And if you experience it at a younger age, it still hurt, but it wasn't somebody who you accumulated.
Right.
30s to 40s, marriages, divorce, and miscarriages. And I don't want to rob of the euphoric things in life. Those are great too.
Right.
I wish someone would have said, breathe, live, run, play. But we're so programmed at such a young age, man, to just consumer.
Yes.
Consume.
We're consumed with consuming.
And waste and go on to the next. I still have every one of my old cell phones.
Wow.
I think more because there's some kind of nostalgic piece to it. Two, the actual information that's on there is to me, I'm like, it's there. Not that I even turn them
Right.
on, but like it's there. Even though I just did recently turn one on. But the waste, man, right? Like
Yeah.
it's just on to the next.
Yes.
And we're doing that now. I feel now more in this last decade, 2 decades, this generation more now with people than ever. There's been this switch where it's no longer an appliance or an inanimate object. Now it's, what do you do? What team do you like?
Right.
Where are you from? And Rogan's preaching this recently, man, where if you're educating yourself and realize that the social media platforms in today's day and age are ad-driven based models.
Yeah,
anyone
sure.
who argues
No
against
doubt.
that, don't talk with me.
Right.
It's an ad-driven. They're not here for your enjoyment.
Right.
They're here to make money. Some way, somehow. Some don't even know how yet. Uber's still not making money.
Yeah.
But at some point, they're all to make money. Yeah, they're giving you a utility. Yeah. They're all to make money. Point is, what unfortunately causes the attention in the conversation, negativity, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
So the point is that what you're seeing is not a byproduct of what's actually going on in today's civilization. Anyways, I think we're being jaded to believe that everyone's dying, everyone's being shot.
For sure.
Everyone has cancer.
We all hate each other.
We all hate each other. Everyone's racist. Yep. Everyone, and it's not that. It's never going to be that. And if anything, there is a growing population of humans that are starting to do this, that are starting to realize that it's not that. Now use it. I'm using it right now.
Yeah.
I'm using it to share with you people that I love you because I'm a human being.
Yes.
I'm bleeding the same color, and I don't care where you're at. Just love people. And I wish people just started caring more about what I'm learning, your immediate exposure, and to love people and to chill. And it's happening, man. And it's really, but now on a negative note, it is happening where people are getting caught up in that.
Yeah.
And it's ripping my heart apart.
It's tough. It's one of the things I hate seeing is, when people are having conversations or connecting, it's like,
and we're all guilty of it.
Yeah.
It sucks.
And it's just, it's taking away from so much, like I said, the energy flow, the interaction, the bonding, which I don't know. That's what brought us to the dance.
I love that. There's so many, dude, you have no idea. I'm going to have to talk to your dancing or your life lawyer to get these the copyrights okay, because you've taught me so much today. Just your vernacular of I like using fun terms and words that mean something, but like the dance is fantastic.
It's appropriate.
It's so fitting.
Yeah.
It's really a dance out there.
Yes.
It's powerful, man. So it's interesting. What is it like how old's your son now?
10.
I don't have kids. Are you freaking out because you want him? Are you prepared to start to watch him? I don't know. I don't even know how to put the question because I don't have kids, but are you gonna let him fall when he needs to fall? For instance, for instance, when it's stuff that you already know that doesn't need trial and error, you're not going to be on the phone for 13 hours today. Where are you setting your boundaries?
Up until a certain, even now, I set the foundation, but I lead by example.
Okay.
Lead by example, I know what makes him tick. You know what makes little boys tick and little girls tick, so you with kids, you use that knowledge as well. But I don't know. It's like, I want him to go ahead and rage against the machine. Go ahead and test me, try me, do it. I mean, show me that that just means he's alive and that he's got verve. I want him to be able to do that. I'm not gonna protect him from falling or anything like that. But, I know what makes him tick. you know, I'm going to compete for him. I'm going to compete with him for the waves sometimes.
I love it.
You know, you're 20. I'm still going to try to kick your ass. If you want to fight, let's, you know, you want to play around, let's do it.
Right.
You know, so, yeah, I mean, that's, I don't know. That's the only thing I know. There's so much, even when we were kids too, there's so much lure and temptation out there. It's like, yeah, you're not going to be able to protect them from everything, but you can. He's big into surfing. He loves the beach. He loves being outside. Great. And that's like, I mean, I try to create a foundation, you know, and, you know, I teach him about, you know, navigating a modern world by changing your environment, you know, and I try to do it in ways that's appealing to kids, you know, because I know, you know, that's, I don't know. It's like nobody wants to avoid EMFs at all costs. I don't, or else I'd be living in the Cahuita jungle in Costa Rica or something, you know, by myself. So, yeah, it's, it's, you know, it'll be interesting. I don't know. I'm not worried about it. I'm not scared about it, you know? Yeah. But you do see that there are a lot of problems out there that kids today, you were talking about migraines before. I didn't know a kid with migraines, you know, growing up, but apparently there are many out there.
You blew my mind when you talk about kid taking melatonin, man.
Yeah, or right.
I couldn't even pronounce melatonin
sleep
when
problems,
I was a kid.
Yeah, that they need melatonin to go to sleep and stay asleep. I didn't have problems sleeping when I was a kid.
No.
Sleep anywhere.
I didn't want to sleep, but I didn't have a problem sleeping.
Right.
But it's interesting, man. It's a fascinating, well, I think you are, and I'm not just saying it because you're on the show, man. Like you are a freaking chill dude, bro. Like you're really, I really like what you're throwing down, and I like how you talk about, because you really put yourself in a lot of vulnerable positions today. And when you talk about questioning anything, people are like, that's still not accepted in the general culture.
Right.
And I can only speak from the American culture. I'm not well versed in other societies. I know ours, and I know that when you question things, you are, you know, you're witchcraft, bro. What do you mean? And I think that there's a fine line between questioning, and there's a fine line between being a, you know, pitching a, you know, whatever they call it, when you're advocating for something and you don't even really understand it anyways, but you're caught in that bandwagon for that hot minute. Yeah. And instead of just the most beautiful thing that's been told to me in the last less than a decade ish of this mini adulting that I seem to be doing is, I want your life. Mm-hmm. There's nothing, and it's the most precious thing that people, like, it's literally worth more. That's when all of a sudden my dividend goes up like tenfold. In my life units. I'm like, man, and I don't even know what the hell I'm doing except literally, you know, the cliche thing, treat people as if you want, how you want to be treated. Right. I'm kicking it up a notch, and like my wife picks on me constantly where I'm treating people better than I treat myself. Yeah. I still take care of myself. Yeah. But I was looking at a car yesterday online. This lady had this convertible online for like $2,000 some odd. Messaged her, and I'm not that great of a car guy, but Kelly Blue Book and a VIN number, and you put it in, and it was obviously said it was way more. She wanted way more than it was worth. Right. I don't need the car, but my rhythm has always been keep it simple, keep it small, disposable income. If you get things that are extra, there should be disposable. It should be the equivalent of a pack of gum. Right. It shouldn't own you. And those are those little things that I'm not preaching, but have been if someone asks, how can you do a show 2-3 hours out of a day? Mm-hmm. Because I don't have anything that I owe. Right. I don't owe anybody anything. But there's a flip side. I also have a 900 square foot home. Right. I also have a 91 Cavalier. Right. I also don't have the cool toys. It's pretty sweet, by the way. Yeah, like that. That's my bad boy. It squeals now. Yeah. But you know, I'm not all about trying to preach against the cool stuff either. Yeah. Do I still want the cool things? But I don't know, man. Definitely don't get caught up in the dogged pursuit of more. But it's fun. I love when I do meet people that have more stuff, and it's cool if it doesn't own you, you know? Right. And if the MO is not more. Yeah. Yeah. And when those eyes close, you're happy.
Yep. And going back to the kid thing too, it's simple. Spend time with the kids. Put down the phone, spend time with them. I don't know. I love talking with kids. You can learn so much from kids. Their instincts are still intact if we haven't beat it out of them yet. You know, we need to learn more from children. I mean, it's just, that's the understatement. That's an understatement. I mean, we need to go back to, you know, looking at and respecting and learning from children and what they do and how they, you know, how they behave and how they carry on. But with children, I don't know. There's no kid that I've talked to that doesn't like spending time with older adults, that doesn't like learning and, wow, those stories are cool or whatever. Right. It's just like, just spend time with them. Yeah. Let them know you care, and then they'll watch and listen and follow your lead. You know, we live in a time. I mean, going back to talk, you know, when I was talking about reading about Native Americans and, you know, reading stories and anthropological interpretations of, you know, or stories from interpretations from anthropologists that looked at Native American remains and whatnot. The whole culture of wild humans is based on this mentor-mentee relationship. We don't have it now. So now we pay a guru online. Now no offense, you know, to Tony Robbins, because these guys are awesome. Gary Vee, all these guys are pretty interesting people, but why do we have to go online to get it? Yeah, we don't have that connection anymore. I don't know. There's probably many reasons for it, but yeah, spend time with the kids.
You know, the only time I always get butterflies before any kind of show or, you know, I get the biggest butterfly. I've had 2 kid stars on. And dude, I was more nervous to have the kid stars than I was to sit down with the sheriff. Yeah. Because
I think I would be too.
Not because I thought I was going to I don't know why I thought it. I just was, I don't know. And I even told him, because of course they were sitting there, and one of the many questions that I asked him, and all this is unpremeditated. Yeah. But I was like, were you nervous today? And they happened to be both about the same age at different times. There were like 9 to 10-year-old girls of friends of mine here. I think you probably even know who they are. But dude, talk about composure. Yeah. And like totally nonchalant. She's like, I didn't even remember I had this today. And she's like, right, mom, like it was because I make sure the mom was sitting on the couch. But like you said, there's such an innocence, and there's such a, I don't know, man. It's a really beautiful thing to talk with kids and be around kids. And I call it the bangarang effect from the movie Hook with Robin Williams and Dustin Hoffman. And bangarang is by byproduct of having a bangarang. You have 2 things. One, it's your happy thought, and your happy thought can be an inanimate object. It could be a memory. It could be anything, but it's special to you. Right. And it pertains to my life because it can be a smell, a place, a person. Yeah. That's yours. But in the byproduct of your bangarang, you physically can fly in that particular movie. Right. What kid or human doesn't want to fly? But if you really think about it, as I've gotten older and the movie is still such a very important to me, you fly, man. Yeah. You really can fly. And it's powerful. It's special to me. And those that know me, that run into me in the dance. Yes. I'm always about how's your bangarang meter? I don't want anyone to know what it is, but how is your meter doing? You know, like, are you kicking on that happy thought? Because the minute we lose it, which happens, and I've been saying this more and more and more, but you're only as good as your last 24. Chief of police taught me that. Someone mentored him on that. So it's not, and that's the point of the show. That's the point of who I am, that I don't always have it figured out. Right. In a blip of an eye, it's over. You know, what with your next issue, what you deal with it then. Right. Are you going to exercise your bangarang, your peace? You know, are you going to exercise that? Slow it down here. And it's powerful. So I've tried to always hold on to my bangarang, and in exchange of that bangarang, you could fly, but it's important to try to find, I feel like, what is yours, and to amplify that.
Yeah, I
You know?
mean, definitely the kids in my life, you know, um, my son.
You have
No, no.
Oh, okay.
I've got my nieces with me a lot.
Gotcha.
So it's my son, my niece, nieces, nephews. Their friends, their close friends. I mean, you're really when you kids have more than one parent. They get
Right.
there's not one parent that has an influence or an upbringing. I mean, I spend lots of time with my kids' friends. So, um, but yeah, definitely thoughts about my kid. And the kids in my life. The ocean, for sure. Surfing. I'm not a good surfer. Not
Really?
no way.
You look like it.
No.
I'm not a surfer.
I mean, it's my son. I followed him into the water.
Nice.
Yeah. So,
But you like to be in it though.
absolutely.
I haven't met one person that likes to be in the water that I haven't like fell in love with.
Yeah.
There's just this like unspoken. It's the closest thing. There's like a few universal languages to me that it's like soccer,
Yeah.
world's language, swimming, and music, and food.
Yeah.
You don't have to talk.
Right.
I literally will sit out in the ocean with anybody all day long if you want.
Yeah.
I won't even bother you. But I bet you we'll dance all day.
Yeah.
Best feeling in the world.
Yes.
Until we're super, super, super pruned.
Right.
2-3 hours. We'll take a 5-minute break. But isn't there something magic? You can't explain it to people that don't get it.
Yeah, no doubt.
Supposedly there's a girl here locally that swam with whale sharks somewhere around here.
Wow.
I'm here to battle that.
Whoa.
I'm very jealous. I'm battling in a good way. She works at Faro.
Where's this? What's this?
That's a new restaurant down the street.
Oh, okay, okay.
And they're very good at their marketing online. They own 2 restaurants.
Mhm.
They're from Italy. Great family, husband and wife team. But what they use in their marketing paraphernalia is like really witty. And what they're doing is showcasing individual employees of theirs.
Mhm.
And this particular employee, snapshot, boom, small caption, and it says not only does X, whatever, I don't remember her name, not only does X like to swim with whale sharks in Flagler Beach, but she also and I stopped right there. Camille immediately sent me a picture of it and goes, get her on the show.
Yeah.
There's nothing. I have a few bucket lists for like when it comes to the water life. Whale sharks are there, but I'm also not the SeaWorld guy, so I'm not going to go to the Atlanta Aquarium and be like, saw one,
Right.
even though I did, unfortunately, in a past life. But I want to see them. Like I want to go see the orca in their live environment, not anything. Yeah, those are some. But to swim with them,
Yeah.
I've been wanting to swim with sharks, but I still don't know what the appropriate mannerisms are. I was in Bimini and I saw there were a bunch of bull shark, and I wanted to get in because they weren't hunting or anything, and it was an isolated area, and I wanted to get in, but I'm not. I could conquer the fear. I just still don't know what the appropriate way is to handle it.
Right.
Is it actually a fact to keep your head facing them, or is it supposed to? I don't know.
Wow.
But that's another dream. Yeah. But the whale shark, supposedly she swam with the whale sharks.
Yeah.
But anyways, the ocean, man.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. Mystery, beauty. I mean, it's all there. Nature,
baby.
Whatever you've got, nature and people. Make the most of it. Make the most of it. Wherever you are, get out in it.
I think that's probably been the thing that has come up constantly through our dialogue. What you've been is just get outside.
Yes. Don't stay inside that cage.
You don't have. It's free.
Yep. Yeah.
It's free, and
getting out of the cage is half
a big deal. And let's do this too. We did really good, by the way. I knew it was going to happen. You did good.
Yeah.
We're going to put. Now I love your slogan / business name because it's Modern Life,
Ancient Path.
Love it. I saw that. And I loved when you did the soapbox for Entrepreneur Night.
Oh, yeah.
And dude, you're really throwing yourself out there. You know that, right? I mean, you obviously know you're an intelligent man by speaking about these things and using it as a means of living off of,
right.
You're like an alien chaser.
For
like,
sure.
Really, what is this guy talking about? There's more people that would think that than when you see, like with me, I immediately go, I want to be like that.
Yeah.
And I think you do a very good job at coming off out of love too, man. You really do, which is really attractive to me. I hope it comes off to the people that have listened to this, and I'm sure it permeates off of you in public. Because
there are a lot of people who know me who probably haven't, not a lot of people, but a good amount of people who know me who probably have no clue, because I know that maybe they don't have the appetite for what I have to say, and I'm not about pushing my agenda, stressing people. It's like I'm more in the pursuit of truth, and and if people want to talk about it, let's talk about it. That's it.
You're literally as I'm learning, you're a walking like example of what I'm implementing, like practicing all these things that we grew up with.
Yeah.
Practicing what you preach.
Yeah.
So if we say that as little kids, and then you get older, and then we're out here selling something that we don't even use ourselves.
Right.
Yeah. That's typical.
And a big part of this too is just letting go of control. You learn that with kids too. Like, I mean, shoot, these things are not under our control.
Right. So and question things.
Yep.
I loved when you said that.
Yeah.
Don't fight.
Right.
Question.
Right.
And listen. And then do some research. It's so fun. My grandfather is so happy with the internet because he literally, if he always told me he wanted to be like a lifelong student before it was cool to say, he wanted to just learn. And now he still gets so upset if you get him going on it about how if people are not like already like rocket science,
right?
Like, why are you not? Like, right. What are you doing?
Right.
He
How come you're not as good as this guy over here?
He just can't help this. He's like, why is no one on the internet? Why are we not? Like he knows what you know what I mean.
Right.
We're on the internet, but why have we not figured out what's at the bottom of the ocean yet? Can't we build this? Can't we? It's driving him in a good crazy because he loves it. So anything I come and stumble across the internet, the ocean is the biggest thing for me. All these every day, some kind of new creature. New thing.
I think in a way though, it's like you could. I mean, we've all heard of like the whole analysis paralysis thing. Information overload. I do run across a lot of people this day and age that are just in love with knowledge and information, which is cool.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe like practice is big. You know what I mean? If you can just practice a few things and practice them habitually, I think that's to me is like is life. I mean, you can gain all the knowledge you want. You don't practice or implement anything. And
my wife and I have been talking about trying to learn another language. I have Spanglish, but I could study until I pass out.
Right.
Unless I'm speaking it.
Yes.
And unless it's I came up with this by talking to my wife the other day because we're big. She doesn't maybe have to like it as much as I do, but I love that we have shower talks. We talk. I'd love to talk with her. And as we were talking about trying to learn another language, and I said, listen, we can try, but until you're really there in that country for an X amount of period of time, there's words used around things that only get used there that you pick up, and it's so subliminal, et cetera, et cetera. But it pertains to what you said, practicing it. It's good to know what happened in the 1920s. It's good. And I think it's good to be a historian. It's good to know this. And it's also maybe good to know how, China was founded. Those are good too. But like you're saying, there is a lot of validity to have to be said. What's the 6 inches in front of your face?
Right.
And don't get too angry with the world.
Right.
All this news.
Yes.
I had someone,
you know what's going on halfway around the world, but you don't know what's going on in your own neighborhood.
I had someone say to me within the last 365 days, if it's not on the news, it's not real. They really we weren't even arguing. They weren't, but one of the things biblically, don't argue with a fool.
Right.
I really was like, this is some society.
Yeah.
If it's not on the news, it's not real. Which I was like,
or on the internet.
But I feel you've been extreme. I mean, I've taken a tremendous amount of mental notes, but more than anything is stay in the dance, people.
Yeah.
Get out there and dance.
Yes.
And love.
Yes.
And it sounds so stupid because I guarantee people are like, like, okay, like I gotta go to work. Like, I get it. I'm sure you're doing things too.
Right.
We don't want to have to do, but we dance. It's good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, there are people out there who are super busy, and I get it. Tons of responsibility, but when you break, then who's going to take that responsibility over?
Mm-hmm.
So you better not break. You got to do the things that are going to allow you to bend and not break.
It's really powerful. It hit today. There was somebody in the news or somewhere online that I saw that had recently passed away, and he was extremely, extremely wealthy. And the article had nothing to do about what I extracted from it,
right?
But it was a screenshot of one of his probably bazillion dwellings, and it was this huge, beautiful catamaran, and somewhere with tropical see-through water, et cetera, et cetera. And I thought, it's all over. There it goes. All of it it mattered then, but
right.
Whose mess is it now?
Right.
Who either inherits it, who has to sell it? And isn't it funny? One thing that Flagler Beach has taught me, even though it's the beach in general, what it is, but being in Flagler Beach for the last close to 10 years, how everything corrodes at a faster rate of speed, and nothing will last.
Yeah.
And I don't mind it because I don't have anything nice.
Right.
But your bike, your car, your house, your everything will rust and die, and right in front of your face.
Yes.
And it happens here faster.
Yeah.
Literally, like I don't have a garage, so the next day I go to use my bike, I'm like, another spoke fall off.
Yeah.
And it keeps you it doesn't matter.
Nothing is permanent.
Nothing, even our bodies. But it's all about that dance, man.
Yeah.
I really like you, bud. I really do, and I hope that
I enjoyed my time.
You're more than welcome. People that have been on it, it's as we grow and change. But for those that found today interesting and you want to know more about it, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure you opened the door to communication.
Oh, absolutely.
Holler at my man.
Yeah.
I tagged you on Facebook. Also, you have a website, and it's you do it now.
modernlifeancientpath.com.
Boom. And if you are interested in having, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like an analysis or like a heads up of, hey man, what do you think?
Right.
That's a service that you provide.
Yes.
You come on down to the house or the commercial establishment and say, hey, look, maybe you could do different lighting. You could do this. Right. And it's kind of like a consulting.
And I actually have meters that do measure different radio frequencies, magnetic fields, stray voltage, harmonics, stuff like that.
It's awesome.
So yeah, I mean, if you've got health issues, it's definitely a consideration. If you want to improve your performance, we can do that too. Like if you're an athlete or a fighter or whatever, you want to, you're looking to up your game, then, we can do that too.
Love it, man. So for me today, dance, turn your routers off.
Yes.
Get Iris on your phone.
Yes.
Those are like 3 hot topics for today's conversation, amongst other things.
Yeah, but definitely big dance. Get outside.
Dance, baby. I love it. Well, thanks again for coming, man.
Thank you. I've enjoyed it. Definitely.
Let's see if we look. You're good luck.
Oh, we didn't get disconnected.
No, it's been good lately. This